Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, the Rebirth of Tang today. My channel ISN and Oppos, T monetized, so if you and Oppos able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Chapters 461 through 480 of the previous episode. Tang risks absorbing extreme yang and yin energies from two sacred mountains. The clashing forces nearly destroy him, but he uses his polar domain to fuse them into a powerful yin-yang blue-silver emperor imprint. In the elite competition, Tang faces a formidable golden mammoth. He brilliantly combines his bloodline abilities to bypass its defenses, striking its heart for a swift victory. After effortlessly winning his first doubles match alongside Mei Gongzi, Tang brings her to his room to teach her the mysterious circles of heaven a profound spatial defense technique. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, the Rebirth of Tang. How did you do that? Mei Gongzi stopped her attack, never expecting that someone could counter her spatial rift in such a way. After passing the inheritance test, she recognized the space element and gained a new understanding of spatial power. Whether crossing space or manipulating it, she had seen tremendous improvement. The Peacock Great Demon King had told her that their ancestor, who ended up becoming a demon emperor, had only managed to pass about 85% of the inheritance test. However, with the fortune stone and the crystal mirror given to her by Tang, Mei Gongzi passed 100% of the test. This elevated her understanding of the space element, even above her ancestors and Oppos. This foundation made her feel like she had become a part of the space element herself. But just now, when she released her spatial rift to attack Azura, the perfect circles he drew in the air somehow closed the rift she had unleashed. Everything became harmoniously integrated, and the peculiar transformation he caused was closely tied to spatial power. But she couldn't and Oppos comprehend how. That was the most unbelievable part for her. Can it be that Azura and Oppos' mastery over space is greater than mine? How is that possible? Purely in terms of elemental control, he certainly couldn't and Oppos match Mei Gongzi. After all, Mei Gongzi was the direct heir of the Peacock Demon clan, and thanks to her inheritance, it was as if she had been acknowledged by the space element itself, making her akin to this plane and Oppos' avatar of space. However, Tang, who was once a god king, had an understanding of space that far surpassed Mei Gongzi and Oppos'. His energy was nowhere near as compatible with space as hers was, but even though his own comprehension regarding space and time could not be called perfect, it was beyond even that of the most powerful beings in this plane. He had once controlled an entire divine realm. He had protected the realm from being swallowed by a black hole, and led the divine realm to break free from the black hole and return to a stable space. These were unimaginable feats for the beings on Phelan planet, but he had experienced them all directly. During these experiences, he constantly interacted with the vast expanse of cosmic space, giving him an understanding of space far beyond what this world could comprehend. This was also why he could use the mysterious circles of heaven, even before regaining his god-level powers. Sensing Mei Gongzi and Oppos' astonishment, Tang smiled slightly and said, "The mysteries of space are never just what we see and perceive directly. To maintain stability, every space requires a lot of energy as a support. This is true for our space inside and outside the Phelan planet. What we need to do is to try to find the balance point of this space. If you can grasp this balance, no matter what kind of space you are in, you will be favored by space." Mei Gongzi, somewhat confused, asked, "The balance point of space? What exactly is this balance point?" Tang replied, "It and Oppos' a feeling that can only be comprehended, not explained. When you truly feel it, you and Oppos' naturally understand. I believe that with the inheritance you received, you actually gained the recognition of this plane in Oppos' space. In a sense, you can even be considered an avatar of space recognized by this plane. Think of the emperors. Why can they become emperors? Perhaps it and Oppos' because in one aspect or another, they are fully recognized by the plane, and are therefore considered the representatives of that aspect. And speaking of that, if you are familiar with the abilities of the emperors, then think carefully. ISN and Oppos' there only one emperor representing each aspect? If they're in Oppos' More than one, it means there might be a deficiency in that area and the plane requires more avatars. The astonishment in Mei Gongzi and Appo's eyes grew. Over the past year, she had been training in seclusion with the Peacock Great Demon King, who had taught her plenty about space. He was a true master, far above her level, so it was natural that she had a lot to learn from him. But at this moment she felt that Azura and Appo's explanation seemed deeper than her father and Appo's, yet at the same time made a lot of sense. And given these so-called mysterious circles of heaven, it was clear that even her current level of control over space was not true mastery, and she had a long way to go. This sense of profound mystery made Azura appear even more impressive in her eyes, and she was now slowly developing a new feeling toward him, respect. Then how should I find that balance point? Mei Gongzi asked. Tang-san replied, whenever you cultivate, you should immerse yourself in space to gain insight. Also, after tearing space apart, always mend it again. In this process of opening and closing, you will find the mysteries of space. Sometimes, closing space is even more important than opening it because you must find a way to mend it. Even if it and Appo's not difficult for you now, carefully sensing the changes during the mending process will help deepen your understanding of space. The mysterious circles of heaven technique, simply put, is a complete process of opening and closing space. When this process becomes harmonious, a mysterious circle of heaven is achieved. When we start drawing a circle, it and Appo's like opening a space. When the circle is completed, it becomes a closed space. Within the scope of this circle, the opening and closing process can neutralize all attacks within range. In the future, if you can make it function independently without needing to pay attention to it specifically, it can be your best defense, and at the same time a powerful control ability. Listening to his explanation, Mei Gongzi and Appo's eyes grew brighter, as if she had caught on to something. A complete process of opening and closing space, ISN and Appo's that like creating a temporary spatial realm? Is that how I should understand it? Tang-san nodded and said that and Appo's one way to understand it, yes. This is also the difficulty of the mysterious circles of heaven. But since you are now an avatar of space and you have the potential to achieve perfect control of it, I believe you can do it with some practice. Let me guide you through an experience. As he spoke, he walked to Mei Gongzi and Appo's side and said, stand with your back to me. Don and Appo's worry I want and Appo's touch you. Mei Gongzi turned around as instructed, facing away from him. Being so close to her, looking at her long beautiful hair and smelling her fragrance made Tang-san and Appo's heart skip a beat. He slowly raised his right hand, using his internal energy to guide Mei Gongzi and Appo's right hand to rise as well. Mei Gongzi felt that as her arm rose, the space around it started to exhibit strange rhythms. It wasn't an Appo's tearing space, but it seemed like the fluctuations of space elemental energy were undergoing a new arrangement. In this process, it was as if a whole new world was being created. As the circle was gradually drawn, it seemed as if a door was opening in the emptiness before her, a door leading to another space. This door was harmonious and perfect, and the other space seemed vast and boundless. Throughout the process, the spatial changes were very peculiar. Compared to her usual method of tearing space apart, this moment felt more like truly integrating with space, working with it as opposed to forcing it to submit to her will. The space element at this moment seemed to become more harmonious. She had never imagined anything like what she was now experiencing. Even her father had never let her feel such beauty in space. In that instant, it was as if countless bizarre and colorful spaces existed within that circle, allowing her to see distant worlds. The strange sensation made her mind involuntarily recall the 3 secrets of the heavens that the celestial plume had once triggered. These mysterious fluctuations made her feel as if these secrets were ever so slightly clarified. She saw herself in the first image once more, standing high above many others, yet this time there was a familiar figure beside her, a masked figure who looked at her with calm and warm eyes. This feeling lasted only for a moment before it silently disappeared. Everything returned to the hotel room. Mei Gongzi felt as if she had gone through a journey in space, raising her understanding of space to another level. What she didn't in Appo's was that Azura now had beads of sweat covering his forehead. He felt a considerable burden when using the mysterious circles of heaven himself, let alone performing it through someone else's hands. the burden naturally became greater. He stood silently behind her, however, not disturbing her as she entered a state of comprehension. At this moment, the distance between them was very close. He could even see the tiny hairs on her neck gently moving against her fair skin. He even had the urge to braid her long hair into the familiar scorpion braid. Once upon a time, his Shao Wu had sat before him, just allowing him to comb her long hair. Tears glimmered in his eyes. "My love, in this life I will cherish you even more. God, King, Divine Realm, none of that matters anymore. In this life I belong only to you. I will guard you every moment. I will strive to become strong to ensure you aren't and oppose. Hurt. I will shield you from the wind and rain. I am willing to give up everything else to protect you." Mei Gongzi let out a long breath, and her beautiful eyes became clear again. She turned around and said excitedly, "I think I understand." They were already close to begin with, and when she turned around they were face to face. From this distance they could even hear each other and Appo's breaths. Facing him so closely, Mei Gongzi was stunned for a moment. Then she saw the tears in Azura and Appo's eyes, those sparkling tears, and his pupils with only her reflection in them. Mei Gongzi instinctively took a step back and stammered, "You? Sorry." Azura quickly turned his head away. "I was reminded of some old memories." The room fell into a brief silence, but at that moment, Mei Gongzi suddenly had a feeling coming from deep inside her that the masked man before her was someone she could trust. Perhaps it was because of that glimpse of a heavenly secret, or maybe it was because of the tears in his eyes. Whatever the case, at that moment, a soft spot in her heart was touched. "Did you feel it?" When Azura turned back, he had already regained his composure. "Yes, I felt the sense of stability you mentioned. Although I can't in Appo's fully grasp it yet, I think I understand a bit. The mysterious circles of heaven is a technique and a way to mend space. Through the process of mending space, it triggers certain changes in space. The space element is drawn to this and naturally supports the process." Azura nodded slightly and said, "Your understanding is correct. Do you want to try again?" Mei Gongzi immediately nodded. Sure. She had just captured that wonderful feeling and naturally wanted to try again. Azura made a rotating gesture with his right hand, signaling her to turn her back to him again. Mei Gongzi turned around as instructed, once more facing away from him. He took a deep breath, fighting the mental exhaustion, and raised his hand again to guide her, helping her perform the mysterious circles of heaven. Their movements were identical, and their figures seemed to overlap at that moment. Despite his physical fatigue, Tang San and Appo's heart was filled with satisfaction and emotion. He continued teaching her how to draw the circles. Mei Gongzi might not fully grasp the mysterious circles of heaven just yet, but this would greatly help her understand space, deepening her affinity with it. It would lay a solid foundation for her future breakthrough to godhood. Circle after circle. This time Tang San didn't and Appo's stop. He continued guiding Mei Gongzi to comprehend and continuously perform the mysterious circles of heaven, letting her fully immerse herself in their wonder. She didn't and Appo's know how much time had passed, but at one point, her right hand naturally traced a circle in the air, and she felt as if the space elemental energy around her was helping her of its own initiative. Yet at that moment, she suddenly felt her hand lighten as the guiding force silently disappeared. Then she heard a strange noise behind her. Turning around, she saw Azura staggering, about to fall. She was instantly by his side in a flash of silver light, supporting him before he hit the floor. He wore a mask, but it only covered his eyes and nose. The lower half of face was as pale as paper. Sweat had soaked his collar, and his breathing was rough. Mei Gongzi was alarmed. "What happened to you?" Azura and Appo's eyes were tightly shut, and he didn't and Appo's respond. At this moment, his vision was completely dark, and a strong sense of weakness overwhelmed him. He could hear her voice, but he couldn't and Appo's muster any response. His spiritual power was severely overdrawn, making it difficult for him to control his body. Mei Gongzi quickly helped him sit down and transferred her bloodline power into his body. At this moment, she realized that guiding her in performing the mysterious circles of heaven had been a tremendous drain on him. Yet, he hadn't and Appo's stopped until he was utterly exhausted. Azura was now weak, having even lost consciousness. Sweat continued to trickle down beneath his mask. This was the first time she had seen him so vulnerable. For a moment, Mei Gongzi felt at a loss. He got himself into this state just because he wanted to teach me. She propped him up against the wall, then quickly fetched a towel to wipe the sweat from his face and neck, continuing to transfer her bloodline power to help him recover. He appeared very serene now, but the tightly closed eyes revealed the pain he was enduring. At this moment, she only needed to raise her hand to remove the mask from his face, even under the pretext of wiping his sweat. However, she had no such intention at all. This is someone I can completely trust, she silently told herself. Her gaze toward Azura softened. It didn't and oppose. Take long for him to recover gradually. Although his spiritual power was significantly depleted, it was because he was unwilling to use his divine consciousness that he ended up in this situation. With Mei Gongzi, he did not feel the need to guard himself in any way. At this moment he was in a very peculiar state. His spiritual power was exhausted, but his divine consciousness was helping him recover quickly. Although it was weak, his divine consciousness was acutely aware of everything around him. Through his divine consciousness, he could even see the expression Mei Gongzi had while looking at him, and the changes in her gaze. Anything I do for her is worth it. Letting out a long breath, Tang San reopened his eyes. He didn't and oppose. Want her to worry too much, even though he wished to stay with her a little longer. Didn't oppose. Nothing, just overdrawn spiritual power, he said softly. Mei Gongzi helped him sit up straight. It and oppose, my fault. I didn't and oppose. Realize it would take so much out of you. Why didn't and oppose? You stop. Tang San smiled. You were in the best state of comprehension then. It would have been a shame to stop. How do you feel? I seem to understand a lot more now. It and oppose. Given me a new understanding of space. I can and oppose. Use it myself yet, but I believe that in the near future, when I comprehend more and have better control, I should be able to. She paused momentarily, then with a slightly reproachful look said, and you call this a basic technique? If this is a basic technique, then what counts as an advanced one? By now, she fully understood that what Tang San had taught her was an extraordinary technique. A divine one even. Tang San smiled slightly and said, as long as it helps you. It does, Mei Gongzi said sincerely. I and oppose. Vi never understood why you and oppose. Vi always helped me and been so good to me. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. I never imagined that your understanding of space was so profound. I think you and oppose. Even stronger than my father in this aspect. How about I take you as my master? Please come back to Kali City with me and guide me. Tang San and Oppo's mouth twitched and he blurted out, nope. Of course not. If he became her master, not to mention the weird seniority relationships, how mortified would she be when he eventually revealed his true identity? Mei Gongzi looked at him suspiciously, seeing the fear in his eyes. Why? Aren't and Oppo's? You already teaching me? Tang San gulped dry. There and Oppo's. Not much of an age difference between us. It and Oppo's. Not appropriate. I can teach you no problem anytime. But being your master, no way. I can and Oppo's take that title. Mei Gongzi looked at him deeply and said, you said you would always help me. You know what I will face in Kali City in the future. If you don and Oppo's have a reasonable identity, how can I explain your presence to the members of the Peacock Demon clan? Being my master is quite suitable. I can convince my father. Tang San hadn't and Oppo's. Expected her to think of something, but she was clearly starting to accept him. Being your master ISN and Oppo's. Appropriate. How about you acknowledge me as your big brother? Tang San suggested tentatively. A fraternal relationship in name only would be good enough for all practical purposes. Although he was younger than her on this plane, he couldn't and Oppo's. Tell her that, so he took upon himself the role of big brother. Big brother? Mei Gongzi was taken aback. Yes. Tang San immediately responded without hesitation. Mei Gongzi and Oppo's face stiffened. You and Oppo's shameless. I and Oppo's am a bit weak. Let me faint for a bit longer. Tang San closed his eyes, tilting his head as if about to pass out. Mei Gongzi looked at him exasperatedly, but remembered how he had overdrawn his strength to help her comprehend space. Her heart softened and she muttered, fine big brother it is. All right. Tang San immediately opened his eyes again, filled with joy. Third brother, come here. I and Appos. Am here, I and Appos. Always been here. I know everything, Xiao Wu said softly. You deliberately came back a little late, didn't an Appos, you? I and Appos. Am sorry, third brother. I and Appos am sorry. Don and Appos cry. Today is a joyous day for a family reunion. Don and Appos cry. You were never as pretty as me to begin with, and you look even worse when you cry. Okay, I won and Appos. Cry, I won and Appos cry. That and Appos right. Today is truly a good day. My final wish has been fulfilled, and our grandson is safe. Third brother, being with you in this life, being your wife, has made me happy. I am extremely happy. I and Appos, we never regretted my choice. Maybe I saved the universe in my past life, so I could meet you in this one. We and Appos, we've been together for a long time. But I still can and Appos, bear to part with you. Even though I knew we had already returned, you deliberately kept the divine realm from finding this place. You stayed by my side daily so I could hold on longer. But I pretended not to know because I wanted to be with you more, and stay by your side. Third brother, I love you so much. But I still have to go. After I and Appos am gone, I know you and Appos, I'll be very sad. But you have many responsibilities. You must manage the divine realm well, and take good care of our daughter and son. Be the head of our family. If you miss me, just look at this. Living is the bravest thing. Death is just an escape. You must be a brave person. There are so many things waiting for you. Protect our children and help Xuan Yu with that divine realm as well. You have a lot to do. Third brother, I love you. Do you remember the first time we met? Do you remember everything we and Appos we've been through? Third brother, I and Appos am willing to love the entire world for you. If there is a next life, I will still be your wife. What happened to you? Mei Gongzi asked, her eyes filled with shock as she looked at Azura, who was sitting there with tears streaming down his face. His tears flowed down from beneath his mask as if he had utterly lost control of his emotions. Right after she called him big brother, his tears started to fall uncontrollably. She didn't an Appos know why, but seeing his tears caused a sharp pain in her heart as if it was being squeezed tightly. I and Appos am fine. I and Appos am just so happy. I remembered some things from the past. While he tried to find an excuse, he was still sobbing uncontrollably. Mei Gongzi didn't and Appos know how to comfort him, but at this moment, even though he was still wearing a mask, he seemed more real to her and more human than ever. What did that mask matter? What kind of past and stories does he have that made him cry just because I called him big brother? After a long time, Azura finally managed to stop his tears. I and Appos am sorry for losing control of my emotions. Mei Gongzi softly said, it and Appos. It's okay. If you want to talk, I can listen. He gently shook his head. It and Appos. It's not the right time yet. One day I will tell you, but not now. In this life he had finally found her. But in this life Xiao Wu was now Mei Gongzi, so he wouldn't and Appos tell her about their past lives until she genuinely fell in love with him again. Otherwise it wouldn't and Appos be fair to her in this life. He wanted to win her back, not to make her feel as if she had to be with him due to some nebulous past connection. He wanted her to fall for him and become his wife again of her own will. Only then would he reveal the memories and love from their past life, ensuring she had no regrets in this life. He let out a long breath, and his emotions finally settled down a bit, though his eyes were still somewhat swollen. He looked at Mei Gongzi and asked, can you call me that again? Even after Mei Gongzi left, Tang San and Appos' mind was still in a daze. The expenditure for the mysterious circles of heaven had been worth it. Azura and Appos' identity had finally brought him closer to Mei Gongzi, and he had finally heard her call him brother. Even though she wasn't an Appos calling him third brother, he was immensely satisfied. He had always wanted to give her all the best in the world and nothing less. Not until the sky outside darkened did his emotions stabilize. Although his spiritual power had been significantly depleted and he hadn't an Appos cultivated at all today, it was perhaps the happiest day he had experienced since coming to this world. His whole heart felt as if it had been cleared and brightened. Tang San and Appo's gaze became resolute again. He needed to become even more powerful. Only then could he protect his beloved in this dangerous world. Returning to the cultivation chamber, Tang San sat cross-legged and focused inwardly. He had devoured the bloodline imprints of the spider tree nymph and the corpse devourer nymph in Today and Appo's competition. Both were 9th-order second-tier bloodlines. Among the contestants in the doubles matches, they were relatively ordinary in strength. But for Tang San right now, they could hardly be more appropriate. The way he cultivated his blue-silver emperor cultivation was by integrating the strengths of various plants. With his affinity for plants and understanding of them, Tang San always tried to move in this direction. However, the plants in the Kali Academy store were limited in terms of bloodline tier, and he obviously could not make contact with strong nymph clans while in the Empyrean Dominion. Therefore, despite his efforts to find suitable plants, he had only managed to elevate the blue-silver emperor to the 3rd tier. Now that he was absorbing the yin-yang energy from the Sunborn Sacred Mountain and Earthshade Sacred Mountain, the blue-silver emperor imprint could only serve as a catalyst for fusion and a medium that allowed the complementary state of the yin-yang energy to remain stable. And as his yin-yang energy grew stronger through continuous cultivation, its power was becoming inadequate for this role. Without a good medium, the excessive yin-yang energy had started to show signs of rebellion. This was why he hadn't an Appo's dared to use it in Today and Appo's competition. He feared that losing balance might result in a backlash. The arrival of these 2 second-tier plant nymphs was undoubtedly a great help. Practically, they had delivered him a big pile of charcoal in snowy weather. When he used his fortune ability earlier, this was exactly the kind of opponent he prayed for. Having fortune on his side proved effective, allowing him to get what he desired. If not for the various events with Mei Gongzi earlier, he would have fused these 2 imprints as soon as possible to stabilize his yin-yang energy. The spider tree nymph in Appo's imprint was black, exuding a sense of hardness and sharpness. It also had faint shadowy fluctuations, highlighting the characteristics of the bloodline. Tang San slowly guided it toward his blue-silver emperor imprint, where the yin-yang energy resided, and activated his internal energy to start the devouring process. Sensing something amiss, the spider tree nymph in Appo's black imprint instantly became rigid, attempting to forcibly break free from the control of his internal energy. However, the yin-yang energy suddenly surged, and a powerful suction force pulled the black imprint next to the blue-silver emperor imprint. The formidable yin-yang energy swirled, releasing intense fluctuations, and the powerful rotation immobilized the spider tree nymph imprint. Intense energy was drained out of it, and rapidly injected into the blue-silver emperor imprint through the yin-yang vortex. A blue light reappeared at the center of the vortex. As the spider tree nymph bloodline imprint weakened, this blue light grew stronger, and the surrounding yin-yang energy swirled more tightly. At the same time, the flow of energy became smoother and steadier. As expected, Tang San was delighted by the results of this experiment. This second-tier bloodline imprint was, of course, stronger than the original blue-silver emperor. After devouring less than a third of the spider tree nymph imprint, the yin-yang energy had completely stabilized, and the previously fragmented blue-silver emperor imprint was recovering. Compared to before, its color had become much deeper, a change clearly brought about by the spider tree nymph imprint. The yin-yang energy swirled around the blue-silver emperor, becoming increasingly fast yet equally stable. Although the yin-yang energy Tang San had absorbed in recent days was of the highest quality, its quantity was still limited. As the blue-silver emperor steadily advanced, reaching the level of a second-tier bloodline, he could finally exert proper control over the yin-yang energy. This imprint was no longer just a medium for fusion. It would become the core of his yin-yang energy abilities. Even the most potent energy was detrimental if uncontrollable. And the more potent, the more dangerous it was. Now that the yin-yang energy was becoming manageable, things were quite different. Tang San could not only use his existing energy better, but he would have no problem absorbing even more. Once the spider tree nymph in Appo's imprint fully integrated, the yin-yang energy appeared as a 2-colored light wheel behind the blue-silver emperor. The deep blue-silver emperor in Tang San and Appo's dantian resembled a gracefully swaying tree. Behind it was a dazzling light wheel composed of crimson and deep purple. In terms of brilliance, it could rival Tang San and Appo's discerning eye of heaven imprint. The discerning eye of heaven appeared as an eye-shaped imprint, now pale gold, surrounded by a black and white light wheel formed by the polar luck domain. Both of these imprints with light wheels looked quite stunning. Although the blue-silver emperor imprint itself was a second-tier bloodline, with the addition of the yin-yang energy, it could not really be judged as such. The yin-yang energy was not the direct bloodline legacy of the sunborn nymph emperor and earthshade nymph emperor, but combined with the blue-silver emperor, it produced something not inferior to a proper first-tier bloodline. Moreover, there was still plenty of room for improvement. Tang San decided not to absorb the corpse-devouring nymph bloodline for now. It would be better to wait a bit before absorbing it. The blue-silver emperor was the medium that preserved the balance between the yin and yang energies. Conversely, when the blue-silver emperor fused with another bloodline, the yin-yang energy was the perfect way to ensure the imprints being devoured would be suppressed and unable to fight back. Now that the yin-yang energy had stabilized and the blue-silver emperor had surpassed its strength, he could absorb more yin and yang energy, which in turn would make it easier for him to devour another imprint. There was no rush. When the following day arrived, Tang San finished his meditation, and his cultivation had fully returned to its peak state. Because of his constant suppression, his cultivation level was still at the 8th order. However, with the absorption of the yin-yang energy and the fusion of the spider tree nymph bloodline into his blue-silver emperor, he was now getting closer to the 9th order, and he felt that he would not be able to hold back for much longer. Today was another individual competition, and then another double. If he continued to advance, the schedule would be very tight, and he would have matches every day. If he got injured, things would become increasingly difficult. After the first round of the competition, half of the participants had been eliminated, but the remaining participants were undoubtedly strong. After breakfast, Tang San met with Big Cat and headed to the ancestral court plaza. Tang San noticed that Big Cat and Appo's spirit and aura, now that he'd had his first victory, differed from when they just arrived at the ancestral court. He now had a sharper aura, and his gaze was more determined. In the first match, Big Cat had directly killed his opponent, one of the few deaths in the first round. Although no one would seek revenge, having a reputation for killing would draw more attention in the competition. Additionally, his future opponents would likely not show mercy, fearing that if they didn't and Appo's go for the kill, they might end up being killed. Brother Azura, you seem a bit different today. Azura had noticed the changes in Big Cat, and Big Cat felt the same about him. In Big Cat and Appo's eyes, Azura seemed to exude boundless vitality. His overall aura seemed elevated, and even his very presence and the minute amount of energy he unintentionally exuded made Big Cat feel a bit odd. Although Azura and Appo's figure was much smaller than his, he felt that his place was behind following Azura. Azura smiled and said, "Maybe it and Appo's the effect of winning yesterday put me in a good mood." Big Cat chuckled and said, I understand. It and Appo's the power of love, huh? That peacock girl is indeed charming. I feel my best when I and Appo's am with my little cat too. Azura didn't and Appo's explained further and changed the topic. I feel like your lion tiger golden force has improved again. I sensed it in the last match. Big Cat nodded and said, during my training in Golden Valley, I gradually felt a sense of integration. Our lion-tiger clan has characteristics of both the lion and tiger races. So my fused lion-tiger golden force should possess the abilities of both races, which I see it does. But this fusion isn't so simple. I feel that it can offer some evolved abilities, so I and Appo's put a lot of effort into this area. The deeper I understand the lion-tiger golden force, the more I can sense some of its unique features. Oh, tell me more. Tang San also had the lion-tiger golden force, but his bloodline was acquired from Big Cat. When it came to understanding and using this bloodline, he certainly wasn't and Appo's as proficient as Big Cat. It was like how Tang San and Appo's understanding of space far surpassed Mei Gongzi and Appo's, but this had nothing to do with his bloodline and everything to do with his knowledge as a god king. When it came to manipulating space and playing with spatial rifts, he couldn't and Appo's do it the way she could, even though he also had the peacock demon bloodline. This was a difference in fundamental aptitude. Simply put, Tang-san possessed various bloodlines absorbed through the mysterious heaven technique, but the ability he could wield from these fused bloodlines was about 70 to 80% of the original. He could achieve around 80% for those he deeply understood, while it might be closer to 70% for others. His advantage lay in the diversity of his bloodlines, allowing them to complement and support each other. Now, he could even fuse and apply them to some extent. However, when it came to using a single bloodline, there was a gap compared to the original of the same level. Big Cat held nothing back from Azura and said, "The very birth of my clan was an absolutely minuscule probability. Their bloodline compatibility is not perfect, so among 100 lion-tiger couples, there can hardly be a few cubs. Our existence itself is a low-probability event. Moreover, something like the lion-tiger golden force appearing is even more unlikely. So I thought, since these unlikely events actually occurred, then could they have resulted in a mutation of the lion-tiger golden force? And this mutation is precisely my ticket to ascension. See, I have come to understand what the lion-tiger golden force has that the lion and tiger races did not. It has an additional powerful ability generated due to the bloodline fusion, an ability that is the opposite of devouring, and was the source of our previous bloodline conflicts. That ability is repulsion." Big Cat extended his right hand as he spoke, and a faint white light appeared. "Touch it and see." Azura raised his hand to touch it. Instantly, as his hand made contact with the white light of the lion-tiger golden force that looked exactly like his own, a powerful rebound force emerged. This rebound force combined the lion-tiger golden force and Azura and Appo's strength. He hadn't exerted much power, but his spiritual power was strong enough to tell what was going on. "I see. The opposite of devouring is repulsion, and the lion-tiger golden force has both properties. How peculiar." Azura asked in surprise, "How did you do this?" Big Cat said, "It's simply reversing the devouring process. I kept experimenting until it worked. I never expected that the bloodline conflict issue that troubled us could result in such an effect after the bloodlines fused. The repulsion ability can absorb the opponent and Appo's power and add it to my own to create a strong rebound. It and Appo's not just using their own strength against them, but combining it with mine and then bouncing it back. The devouring effect is of course more useful when the opponent uses some kind of energy I want to absorb. But if I can't or I Don and Appo's want to do that, I can use repulsion to reflect it back and let them suffer the consequences of their own attacks. Devouring is better for enhancing attacks, while repulsion is suited for defense. When the lion-tiger golden force is used for repelling things, the energy consumption is lower than when it's used for devouring, and there and Appo's no concern about indigestion like I might get from devouring a kind of energy I can't properly absorb. Also, I can restrict the repelling effect to a certain area. I suspect that once I reach the 10th order, I should have a domain ability related to repulsion. By then, even if my opponent is stronger, they might not be able to defeat me." Hearing this, Azura and Appo's eyes lit up, and he suggested a possibility. "I see, so a repulsion domain. That must be very powerful. But have you considered combining devouring and repulsion? Devour one, repel the next one. Wooden and Appo's that make an attack 3 times as powerful as the opponent and Appo's twice the opponent and Appo's power plus your power combined." Now it was Big Cat and Appo's turn for his eyes to light up. "Yeah, why didn't an Appo's I think of that?" He clapped his hands, his excitement rising. "Right, who says I can't use the 2 abilities in combination? I can devour the opponent and Appo's first attack, then use repulsion on their next attack, and incorporate the devoured power into the repulsion. This will make the attack far more powerful than just my own power." Just thinking about it was terrifying. "Practice it when you go back, but Don and Appo's try to use it today. Save it as a trump card," Azura said with a chuckle. "Got it. Haha, you and Appo's smart as always." Big Cat rubbed his hands eagerly. If it were an and Appo's for the upcoming match, he would have wanted to find a place to try it immediately. "Big brother Azura, are you there?" At that moment, a pleasant voice came through Azura and Appo's communicator. That big brother made his knees a little weak. Although Meigongzi and Appo's tone felt somewhat awkward and unnatural, and she was clearly not used to such a form of address, he was delighted to hear it. "I and Appo's I'm almost there with Big Cat. How about you? Azura replied softly. Big Cat rubbed his own arms and said, Brother, you and Appos. Giving me goosebumps. Are you possessed? Did a split personality take over? Azura glared at him while Mei Gongzi and Appos' voice came through the communicator. Yes, I and Appos am almost there too. After returning yesterday, I practiced for half the night, and I feel that I understand space better. It and Appos' better to focus on protection rather than destruction. This way it fights back a lot less when I try to control it. This change in mindset is really important to me. Thank you. Tang Sen chuckled, no thanks needed. That and Appos' because you and Appos smart. Others might not understand no matter how much I explain. Our little Mei is truly a combination of beauty and wisdom. Right? See you later. Mei Gongzi and Appos' face reddened slightly from his praise, and she felt that Azura and Appos' mood seemed quite different today. Big Cat quickened his pace, trying to distance himself from the dumbass causing him goosebumps. After ending the call, Tang San and Appos' face broke into a silly grin. It was truly wonderful to see Mei Gongzi every day. Catching up with Big Cat, he noticed the lion tiger's odd expression and tried to explain. Please try to understand. This is all new to me. Alright, whatever you say. Big Cat responded with a teasing look. A far cry from the decisive lion-tiger sword saint on the battlefield. They arrived at the ancestral court plaza and found that not only had people not gotten bored, but the sea of spectators seemed even denser. Everyone knew that the later matches would be more exciting and intense, since the remaining contestants were the absolute cream of the crop. Naturally, they were even more eager to see who would come out on top and how. Azura and Big Cat entered the waiting area, awaiting the start of the matches. Azura stood in the corner behind Big Cat. With Big Cat and Appos' imposing figure and the fearsome reputation from the first round, attention on him was minimal, just as he preferred. Soon Mei Gongzi arrived as well. She joined Azura and Big Cat in their waiting area this time. Since it didn't in Appos' matter where she waited for the match to start, she chose to be with them. She was in the 9th group, so her match would be later. Over here. Tang San quickly waved her over, guiding her to his side. Seeing him, Mei Gongzi, Kuden and Appos' helped but smile. The mysterious circles of heaven had become a medium that brought them closer. After attempting and practicing it, Mei Gongzi increasingly felt the profoundness of this divine technique. It was not just a technique, in fact, but a way to cultivate spatial abilities. The help it provided her felt almost as significant as her ancestral inheritance. He had such a precious ability and taught her without reservation, and he even pushed himself to the point of fainting while guiding her. It was impossible not to be moved. Having such a brother was lovely, especially since she had seen through the heavenly secret that he would always be by her side to help her, and might even become the ruler of Kali City in the future. Mei Gongzi came over and stood beside Azura. Hi, big brother. He immediately beamed. He resisted the urge to hug her. You didn't and Appos' stay up too late to cultivate, did you? Mei Gongzi shook her head. No, Don and Appos' worry. I rested and meditated at midnight, since there was a match today. I spent most of yesterday thinking about the integration with space. Through what you taught me, I realized that since space recognizes me, I should take care of it better, not just use it. This change in perspective is particularly important to me. Although it and Appos' only been a day, I feel I and Appos' gotten closer to understanding space. He gave a thumbs up. Your gut feeling is right. Keep cultivating in this direction and you and Appos' gradually grasped the true essence of space. Mei Gongzi responded with a hum. She had never been confident about inheriting the position of City Lord of Kali City and the leader of the Peacock clan. After all, she had human blood. Will the vast Peacock Demon clan acknowledge me even though I have the golden crown? Moreover, Kali City housed other races. The ancestral court had the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, who even her father Kuden and Appos' defeat, and the ancestral court coveted Kali City as well. After glimpsing that heavenly secret, however, she saw the possibility of her dream becoming a reality, giving her more confidence. Learning the mysterious circles of heaven and passing the ancestral inheritance test naturally deepened her confidence. However, She also knew that she needed greater strength to truly control Kali City, and reaching godhood was crucial. Tang San and Apos S mysterious circles of heaven gave her a glimpse of the boundary to the god level, showing her a path. This guidance was immensely helpful. Big brother, do you know who your opponent is today? Mei Gongzi asked softly. Azura shook his head. No, I don't, and Apos. Not that it matters, he said casually, causing Big Cat to turn and look at him with a raised eyebrow. Stay humble, stay humble. You might run into a strong opponent again, Big Cat teased him. In the last round, Azura and Apos S opponent was the mighty Golden Mammoth. Winning Wooden and Apos T have been easy if it hadn't been for a clever strategy. Who will I face in this round? If it and Apos S a member of a strong clan, it might not be an easy fight. He smiled. No matter who the opponent is, they can and Apos T stop me. His attitude toward everything had changed now that his relationship with Mei Gongzi rapidly progressed. He became more positive and gradually showed a bit of an edge. Mei Gongzi said, then I and Apos I'll be watching you. Be careful. She had confidence in Azura. Yesterday and Apos S mysterious circles of heaven showed her more of Azura and Apos S depth. Just that one move was enough to counter her spatial rift. With such strength, his chances of defeating his opponent were very high. Tang San nodded. As they spoke, the second round of the Ancestral Court Elite Competition solo matches had begun. The first group of contestants was already entering the stage. Tang San had Mei Gongzi meditate and rest beside him, maintaining her best condition, and told her he would call her when it was his turn to go on stage. It and Apos S a pity little cat ISN and Apos T a noble. Otherwise she would be here to compete too. Seeing you and Mei Gongzi together makes me miss her, Big Cat transmitted to Azura. Azura rolled his eyes and said, you two parted ways this morning. You and Apos I'll see her again after the match. By the way, how an Apos S little cat and Apos S condition? Big Cat said she and Apos S in great shape now. Maybe it and Apos S because her bloodline conflict was so severe, but once that problem was resolved, her cultivation advanced rapidly. I think her progress is even faster than mine. Plus, she can now use the repulsion trait of the Lion-Tiger Golden Force. I think it won and Apos T be long before she reaches the 9th order. Her talent was actually greater than mine when she was young, but the severe bloodline conflict held her back. That and Apos S good. Now that the bloodline conflict is no longer an issue, things will go better and better. Your Lion-Tiger clan is naturally strong. During your match that day, your bloodline heavily suppressed your opponents. In this regard, the pure lion or tiger races simply don't have this kind of dominance, Azura said. Big Cat sighed and said, the benefits only became apparent once the fusion of the two bloodlines and the conflict issue were resolved. It was indeed a qualitative improvement. It and Apos S just a pity that so many of our ancestors weren't an Apos T lucky enough to meet you. Tang San patted his shoulder and said, Don and Apos T overthink it. If you lead the Lion-Tiger clan to prominence, showing all those who look down on you your strength and establishing the Lion-Tiger clan at the pinnacle of the Empyrean dominion, that will be enough to honor your ancestors. I will. That and Apos S also why I participated this time, Big Cat said, clenching his fists. Although today and Apos S matches were half as many as the first day, they took noticeably more time per match. Those who made it to the second round were all the top contenders from the first round after all. The frequency of intense clashes increased significantly. After the experience from the first round, everyone became more cautious in their battles. While strength was critical, performance during the fight was equally crucial. The first round had its share of unexpected upsets. For instance, Tang San and Apos S match was seen as an upset for the Golden Mammoth clan and even considered a possibly rigged match. Tang San didn't and Apos T rest but continued to watch the matches closely. There was no better opportunity than this tournament to understand the characteristics of the powerful demon and nymph clans. He also carefully observed which bloodline imprints would be most suitable for him. He set a goal for himself. When he attempted to reach the 10th tier, he needed to have 9 first-tier imprints ready. He already had 3 first-tier imprints and 3 second-tier imprints, and apart from the slot occupied by Crystalline, he still had a free one. That little one had been asleep ever since the Hell Garden trip and hadn't Oppos. T woken up. It seemed like a very peaceful sleep. Last night, Tang San intended to fuse with the Golden Mammoth imprint to enhance his physical strength. But when he prepared to do so, he suddenly realized crystalline was occupying a slot, which made him abandon the idea. He still needed to save a slot for an imprint he believed would be more beneficial. Although the Golden Mammoth was good, it hadn't Oppos. T moved him enough to take in the imprint without hesitation. Another option was to break through to the 9th order, gaining an extra imprint slot. He wasn't Oppos. T hurrying to break through, however, the more he accumulated and compressed, the more significant the improvement would be after the breakthrough. He was easily on par with any 9th order expert in terms of both bloodline and spiritual power, so he would wait until he simply couldn't hold back anymore. The matches proceeded one after another, and today and Oppos' matches were even more intense, with more contestants getting injured. Some fought to exchange injuries for victory, but such contestants would quickly run into trouble in the next round. Finally, it was time for the third group again. Tang San gave Mei Gongzi a heads up and headed to the waiting area. Half of the third group had already been eliminated in the previous round. According to the order, he would be the second to go on stage this round because he was number 6. Naturally, his opponent would be one of the winners as well. In the waiting area, other contestants were waiting to enter. Among them was someone Tang San had seen on the first day of the competition, the third contestant from the third group. This contestant was over 3 meters tall, and was from a clan with a second-tier bloodline. In the first round it had defeated another second-tier bloodline. They were both fortunate to have avoided the Golden Mammoth Mao Wenwu, but of course only one of them could pass the first round. At this moment the first round victor and Oppos' expression turned peculiar upon seeing Tang San. Tang San and Oppos' victory in that match surprised all the contestants. It was now pondering how Tang San had won. However, since the matches proceeded in sequential order, its opponent was the winner between the first and second contestants of the third group, which means it wouldn't Oppos' faced Tang San. Only if it won this round could it meet Tang San in the next round, and that was on the premise that Tang San won as well. Tang San also observed the contestants in the waiting area, trying to identify his opponent. This 3-meter-tall second-tier bloodline contestant was not his opponent. Last time he hadn't Oppos. T paid particular attention to the other winners of the third group. Apart from the third contestant, 2 others were waiting there, clearly the opponents for him and the third contestant. These 2 had quite different appearances. One looked almost identical to a human male. If Tang San couldn't Oppos, T subtly sensed from the aura that he wasn't Oppos. T human, he might have genuinely been fooled. This contestant had short, fiery red hair, stood about 1.9 meters tall, had a straight nose and square mouth, and exuded a bright and warm aura. The other was an unidentifiable demon of a race Tang San had never seen before. Standing around 2.5 meters tall, its skin had black markings, its head was somewhat elongated, and its eyes were narrow, giving off a sinister and dangerous vibe. Which of these 2 will become my opponent? Tang San didn't Oppos. T dare use his divine consciousness to probe here, as there were too many god-level powerhouses in the ancestral court. If his secret of possessing divine consciousness were discovered, it would cause big trouble, and even more so since he was not at the 10th tier. The 4 of them were observing each other. They wouldn't Oppos. T know who their opponents were unless they revealed their numbers, so Tang San was only sure that his opponent should be one of these 2. At this moment the staff in Oppos' announcement came. Group 3 number 1, number 3, number 6, number 7, enter the arena for your matches. Everyone's face turned serious, and the atmosphere became tense. Under the staff in Oppos' guidance, they each walked toward different directions of the arena. Tang San arrived at one side of the arena and was assigned to the second match stage. Following the staff in Oppos' indication, he ascended the stage. As he ascended the stage, his opponent stepped up on the other side of the second match stage. It was the contestant who had fiery red hair and looked almost indistinguishable from a human. There were too many races and clans among the demons and nymphs. Even after all the studying he'd done at Redemption Academy, Tang San still couldn't Oppos. T remotely recognized them all. He didn't in Oppos. T know which race or clan this opponent belonged to. However, judging from his aura, he was clearly a difficult opponent to deal with. Among the 3 contestants earlier, the one Tang San least wanted to face was this one. The opponent was also observing Tang San. He appeared very calm, but his eyes had turned dark red at some point. "The match begins," announced the referee, standing at the edge of the stage. In the waiting area, upon learning that Tang San and Oppos' match was on the second stage, Big Cat and Mei Gongzi moved to another waiting area for a better view of the match. "Which race is Brother Azura and Oppos' opponent from?" Big Cat asked, a bit puzzled. Not only did Tang San fail to identify the opponent in Oppos' race, but in spite of his significantly greater knowledge and experience, Big Cat also had no clue. Mei Gongzi and Oppos' expression was somewhat serious. Generally, higher-level demons and nymphs also appear in human form. Luck is not on his side today. The last match was against a golden mammoth, and regardless of this opponent and Oppos' race, I and Oppos' am certain he has a first-tier bloodline. The specific race will only become clear once the fight starts. Is he that unlucky? The proportion of first-tier bloodline contestants was in Oppos' high, especially in the early stages of the knockout rounds. Yet even so, Tang San had faced first-tier opponents in 2 consecutive matches. Moreover, as the competition progressed, the likelihood of facing first-tier bloodlines would increase, since only the strong remained. Was it his fate to keep fighting tough opponent after tough opponent? At this moment, the referee had already announced the start of the match, and the battle was about to begin. Tang San raised his left hand, holding the teleportation array disc in his palm. Although he had the Peacock Demon bloodline, so he didn't need it, he did need an excuse since he was clearly not a member of the clan. It also served as an advertisement for his teleportation array disc. One victory with it might not mean much, but how about multiple? Especially if he advanced out of the group stage, it would attract attention, which would be beneficial for increasing the price of the teleportation array discs. Since he chose to compete, he aimed to gain multiple advantages simultaneously. 200 meters away from Tang San, his opponent stepped forward. In the next moment, an intense red light surged from his body. Even from this distance, Tang San could feel the change in air temperature. The young male with short red hair extended his arms to his sides. Instantly, thick vines burst out from his back and quickly grew out, extending behind him and above his head like dark red serpents. Large crimson flowers began to bloom on these vines. The petals opened, and the centers were dark red. Within a few moments, dozens of large flowers adorned the vines. In the waiting area, Mei Gongzi, Kuden and Oppos' helped but exclaim, a scorching sunflower. Upon hearing this, Big Cat and Oppos' entire body shook, and he said in surprise, "Are you referring to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and Oppos' original clan?" Mei Gongzi nodded solemnly, her eyes showing signs of tension. The sun-nurtured Sunborn Nymph Emperor was the foremost of the Nymph Emperors in the Solstice Empire, the absolute most powerful existence. However, while its bloodline was something any nymph would long to acquire, it was simply not replicable. In a sense, it was similar to the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor of the past. The difference was that the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor was the result of an extremely potent mutation of a single low-level bloodline. The other Horn Deer Demon lineage was not truly powerful, it was only exceptional in spiritual power. In contrast, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and Oppos' background was much more noble. Though it was reportedly a hybrid, there had to be an original race used as a base for grafting other bloodlines. And before acquiring bloodline traits of other races, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and Oppos' original bloodline was that of the Scorching Sunflowers, a powerful first-tier clan. In the past, they had even produced a Scorching Sunflower Nymph Emperor at that time. The Scorching Sunflower Emperor ranked relatively low among the Nymph Emperors. However, when the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and Oppos' bloodline mutated and allowed it to achieve the status of Nymph Emperor, its power surpassed all others of its kind, and it became the top existence in the Solstice Empire. After becoming an emperor, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor always hoped to cultivate the Scorching Sunflower bloodline in order to reproduce its own, but it never succeeded. This did not affect its care for the clan, so the Scorching Sunflower clan remained one of the strongest in the Solstice Empire. Of course, The fact that such a powerful clan had sent this person to participate in the Ancestral Court Elite competition indicated that the contestant was one of their best seedlings. In the first round, Tang San encountered the descendant of an emperor, a demon from the Golden Mammoth clan that had the most potent defensive abilities of all demons. Now, he faced the Scorching Sunflower in the second round. His luck couldn't and oppose be described as anything but terrible. Tang San had naturally never met anyone from the Scorching Sunflower clan, but he had heard of them. So when the opponent activated the Scorching Sunflower bloodline, he recognized it. His lips twitched. He hadn't an oppose. Used his fortune blessing today. Was he now enduring the misfortune that came with using the Celestial Fox abilities all the time? A ninth order powerhouse with a top-tier bloodline wouldn't an oppose back down even against a regular 10th order opponent. Just as he could defeat the Ice Maiden clan leader, Huang Bingbing, he believed the strong members of top clans could challenge god-level opponents. Undoubtedly, the representative of the Scorching Sunflower clan was one of them. While Tang San was pondering, the other half of the arena had turned into a world of blazing fire. The temperature continued to rise, and more crimson sunflowers were growing on the vines sprouting from his opponent. Based on the opponent's aura, his bloodline power seemed to be somehow beyond the peak of the ninth order, although it was clear that he hadn't an oppose ascended yet. Tang San was speechless. Defeating this opponent would not be easy. At this moment, the Scorching Sunflower started to walk toward Tang San. As he moved forward, the sunflowers blooming on the vines became even more vibrant, with their dark red stamens faintly glowing. There were already over 100 sunflowers in full bloom. This one opponent alone felt stronger than the Spider Tree Nymph and the Corpse Devourer Nymph combined. Tang San didn't an oppose know that if his opponent knew his thoughts he would be furious. If the Spider Tree Nymph and Corpse Devourer Nymph were before him, they would not even entertain thoughts of resisting. They would simply concede and pray he didn't cause trouble for them. The nymph had released his bloodline power to such an extent because he had researched Tang San beforehand. As a direct descendant of the Scorching Sunflower clan, there were naturally countless others at his beck and call, so he had some information about his opponent. Tang San and Oppo's victory over the Golden Mammoth clan in the previous match made him wary. He didn't and Oppo's believe it was a fake match. Would a Golden Mammoth intentionally lose to a human? What a joke. So how did the Golden Mammoth kid lose? Before this match, his elders advised him that this human was likely hiding some ability that allowed him to take down his opponents in close combat. He shouldn't an oppose let the human get close and should use long-range attacks to solve the problem. That was why he fully activated his bloodline power from the start, putting pressure on Tang San. Tang San and Oppo's gaze focused and a faint glow appeared on his skin. He had to confront this opponent head-on. In the next moment he suddenly disappeared. The nymph's pupils contracted instantly, and his sunflowers suddenly emitted dazzling light. Fiery red beams shot out from the stamens of dozens of sunflowers, each beam about a palm's length in diameter. They instantly wove into a fiery net, closing off all the space around the Scorching Sunflower. He knew that he could not give his opponent a chance to get close. If he dared to appear anywhere near, the human would immediately face the pure yang fire attack from the sunflowers. Amidst the scorching flames, large ripples appeared. The space around the Scorching Sunflower seemed to become somewhat illusory and distorted. Mei Gongzi, being the space element expert she was, saw at a glance that the intense heat was actually causing the surrounding space to become extremely unstable. Under these conditions, attempting to teleport could not only result in reaching the wrong place, but also suffering a backlash from the wild space element energy. Her hands clenched into fists. At the same time, Tang San indeed appeared. But to everyone in Oppo's surprise, it wasn't anywhere near the Scorching Sunflower contestant. Instead, he appeared about 10 meters away and off to the side. Then he raised his hand, and a strange device appeared in it. Something shot out of the device straight at the Scorching Sunflower. At a distance of 10 meters, there was no possibility of dodging such powerful bolts from the godly Zhuge crossbow. Even a demon or nymph king could hardly manage it. In addition, the godly Zhuge crossbow gave off a strange golden halo, and only the user knew that this halo was the result of using the Golden Rock bloodline to activate the crossbow's array. The speed of the godly Zhuge crossbow and Appo's bolts was incredible to begin with. With the added speed and sharpness granted by the Golden Rock bloodline, almost as soon as the mechanism and Appo's sound began, dozens of bolts had already pierced the opponent and Appo's body. Everything happened so fast that many spectators didn't and Appo's to even see the bolts being shot. However, in the next instant, Tang San and Appo's pupils contracted, and he vanished once more. Flame beams crossed and pierced through the space where he had been, distorting the air. The nymph had indeed been struck square by the crossbow bolts. He withered immediately, and was engulfed by the vines behind him. But if one looked closely, one would see that 3 of the sunflowers had silently withered in that instant. At the same time, on the other side, a large sunflower and Appo's petals closed, then quickly opened again. The scorching sunflower emerged from it, completely unharmed. As he appeared in the distance, Tang San and Appo's eyes showed a look of surprise. Body substitution? To nobody's surprise, his crossbow shot had in fact hit the opponent exactly as intended, and being shot from such close range was bound to severely injure even a demon or nymph at the peak of the 9th order. Of course, the golden mammoth was an exception. Yet this opponent had seemingly swapped his critically injured body with one of the sunflowers behind him, an ability Tang San had never seen before. Tang San immediately grasped the issue, given his experience and understanding. The scorching sunflower and Appo's humanoid form was not its true self. The nymph's essence lay in the vines and the sunflowers behind. It was clear to Tang San that the humanoid scorching sunflower was actually the embodiment of 3 of the crimson sunflowers. That was why 3 flowers had withered. Yet the humanoid body had emerged unharmed from another flower. Having the humanoid body destroyed was definitely not something pleasant, but the nymph could simply generate more bodies. In other words, the only way to kill off a scorching sunflower was to get rid of all the vines and flowers. At this moment, Tang San and Appo's opponent seemed enraged. Hundreds of fiery beams, which Tang San mentally labeled scorching beams, shot toward him simultaneously, covering the entire area around him. What was more terrifying than the actual beams was that the surrounding space was affected by the intense heat, making it impossible for Tang San to teleport accurately. Tang San moved, and white incandescent light burst forth from his body. Using the ghost shadow perplexing track, he weaved through the scorching beams, his figure appearing like multiple phantoms in the already distorted light, an extremely peculiar sight for the spectators. The scorching beams were too dense, and even ghost shadow perplexing track couldn't and Appo's completely evade them. Yet when a scorching beam was about to hit him, the incandescent aura radiating from him would instantly generate a strong repulsive force, deflecting the beam and preventing it from harming him. Big Cat was stunned. He had just explained the repelling effect of the lion-tiger golden force to him. How can he use it just like that? He was no longer surprised by Azura and Appo's display of multiple bloodline abilities. When Azura helped their lineage with bloodline fusion, Big Cat noticed that he seemed to be absorbing some of their bloodline power, but Azura never explained it and Big Cat never asked either. He knew this was likely the core secret of his benefactor, and since it clearly wasn't harming them, he just let it slide. But he hadn't and Appo's expected Azura to use the repulsive ability of the lion-tiger golden force just like that. After all, he himself was not completely in control of it. In any case, this was now a clash between first-tier bloodlines. The scorching sunflower might be strong, but the repulsive effect of the lion-tiger golden force was equally powerful. The temperature on the stage continued to rise, turning the area into an illusory world surrounded by water-like ripples. It was difficult for the spectators to even see the battle clearly. The stage was enormous, but it was entirely enveloped in blazing flames. Surviving in such extreme heat was incredibly difficult, yet the human competitor did not show any signs of wanting to abandon the fight, and the battle continued. This was a difficult match for Tang San, even tougher than his fight against Huang Bingbing. The scorching sunflower and Appo's intense yang energy was quite similar to that of the sun-born nymph emperor. They came from the same root after all. Although there were slight differences at this level, they weren't all that significant. The heat Tang San felt wasn't and Appo's just from the scorching beams themselves. The nymph's aura caused the stage and the air to heat up. Fighting in such conditions was far from comfortable. The opponent and Oppo's bloodline power seemed endless. His aura completely covered the entire stage and left Tang San no room to dodge. It even significantly restricted Tang San's use of spatial power. All across the stage, space was distorted in places, so attempting to teleport could result in a serious backlash. It seemed that defeating the opponent would be impossible without using some real skills. Tang San grabbed into the air with his right hand, and Sky Shatterer appeared in his grasp. Immediately, a deep blue vine emerged from his palm, wrapping around the hammer and Oppo's handle. Using the strange movement patterns of Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, the vine guided Sky Shatterer somewhere away from Tang San. The Lion Tiger Golden Force was also activated, covering the Blue-Silver Emperor and Sky Shatterer with a layer of dazzling white light. At the same time, Tang San continued to use Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track himself, avoiding the scorching beams and Oppo's direct attack. He took a deep breath and switched the Lion Tiger Golden Force from repulsion to devouring, forcibly absorbing the surrounding fire elemental energy. The Lion Tiger Golden Force shone brightly, and then instantly switched from devouring to repulsion. The surging Lion Tiger Golden Force exploded outward, forcibly creating a clear area for Tang San in the scorching environment. He had mentioned this to Big Cat before. First devour, then repel, using the opponent and Oppo's strength against them. The distorted scene before him cleared up, and by that point Sky Shatterer was already hurtling toward the opponent and Oppo's vines. Several scorching beams shot toward Sky Shatterer, aiming to block it. A dark red light flashed on the surface of Sky Shatterer, and in the next instant, the scorching beams were absorbed into it and vanished without a trace, unable to even slow it down, let alone stop it. Then Sky Shatterer struck a scorching sunflower vine, and its pulverizing effect was triggered. Although a scorching sunflower and Oppo's attack power was fantastic, their defense was not exceptional. The vine blasted into shards, and the two sunflowers on it immediately withered. Sky Shatterer was forged from heavenly fire essence iron, and enhanced with the devouring effect of the Lion Tiger Golden Force. Devouring and absorbing these pure yang flames not only did not harm it but even strengthened it. Tang San skillfully hooked the Blue-Silver Emperor with his hand, and the hammer bounced back. With a flick of his wrist, it was then launched once more, smashing toward another vine. Sensing the threat, the scorching sunflower immediately directed more scorching beams at Sky Shatterer, aiming to melt it and burn the Blue-Silver Emperor vine behind it. In the past, the Blue-Silver Emperor vine might have simply withered from the intense heat without needing the scorching beams to destroy it. But now it was different. The intertwining of yin and yang energies made it extremely resilient. The complementary and balancing nature of these energies allowed the vine to endure all other energies, heat included, naturally. With another bang, a second vine was blasted apart. Tang San controlled the Blue-Silver Emperor skillfully, guiding Sky Shatterer. As the scorched vine began to show damage, he quickly retracted it, releasing another vine to carry the hammer flying toward another direction. This technique of controlling Sky Shatterer was called Meteor Hammer-on, one of the hidden weapon techniques from the Tang sect and Oppo's hidden weapon 100 separation, and it was perfect for this environment. Thanks to Sky Shatterer clearing the stage, the density of the scorching beams attacking Tang San naturally decreased. Moreover, it also threatened the opponent and Oppo's main body, forcing him to respond and giving Tang San a brief respite. It had to be admitted that the scorching sunflower bloodline was extremely powerful. The scorching heat was already singing his clothes and hair, which were now giving off a burnt smell. The fire was continuously eroding his energy, like a poison. If it weren't and Oppo's for the yin-yang energy neutralizing it, even the Lion Tiger Golden Force Kuden and Oppo's have completely blocked it. This was the true strength of a first-tier bloodline. Among Tang San and Oppo's various bloodlines, none could perfectly counter it. The yin-yang energy could indeed neutralize it, but he simply didn't have enough of it just yet. There was still a significant gap compared to this pure blazing fire. On the other hand, Sky Shatterer was unstoppable in its meteor hammer form. Tang San dodged the opponent and Oppo's attacks as much as possible while using only Sky Shatterer to strike back. And wherever the hammer hit, the scorching sunflower vines would vanish. After several hits, the opponent wised up. The vines no longer stayed in place but moved quickly, dodging while unleashing full firepower. They stopped attacking the hammer and focused all their attacks on Tang San. If they took out Tang San, the hammer would no longer be a problem. The repulsive effect of the Lion-Tiger Golden Force played a crucial role at this moment. Such pure yang attacks were too much for Tang San to absorb. He couldn't and oppose to withstand the sheer energy. Repulsion was much more helpful than devouring in these moments, and it allowed him to handle the attacks he couldn't dodge. As Tang San struggled and exhausted himself against this powerful opponent, a gentle voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Why is it so hot, Daddy? It's so annoying. Tang San was stunned for a moment. This was crystalline. Are you awake? Tang San instinctively called out in his sea of consciousness. His heartbeat skipped a beat, and a fiery beam hit him. Although he blocked it using the repulsion ability, he was still blasted backward. Crystalline was a gift of the Crystal Demon Emperor. Tang San was always cautious about this little life form because he wasn't oppose to clear about what she truly was. When Crystalline first hatched, she was his greatest aid in forming the Polar Luck domain, and he was naturally grateful for that. But what was her relationship with the Crystal Demon Emperor? Why would they entrust her to an unknown element like Tang San? He was always on guard and feared that the Crystal Demon Emperor, the foremost of the Demon Emperors, might pose a threat to him. Crystalline had been sleeping since then, however, and her sudden awakening shocked him. At that moment, Crystalline's imprint suddenly brightened, like a crystal reflecting a sudden sunbeam. Tang San felt a strange sensation. The surrounding distorted light became clear again, and he could even sense the blood flowing within the scorching sunflower. Among the many vines, there was one that released intense firepower. It injected a large amount of energy into the surrounding vines, unleashing it through the crimson sunflowers to attack. What on earth is this? I can see that guy's bloodline power flow. Tang San and Appo's battle experience was extensive. He wooed and Appo's missed such an opportunity. Sky Shatterer shot out instantly, propelled by the Lion-Tiger Golden Force at full blast, heading straight for the point where he sensed the core of the opponent's bloodline power. Immediately, as if panicking, many of the vines rapidly contracted to protect that point. At the same time, all the sunflowers shot fiery beams at Sky Shatterer, even neglecting to attack Tang San. This significantly reduced the pressure on Tang San. Daddy hit it. Crystalline and Appo's voice sounded again, and the shining crystal imprint glowed again, allowing Tang San to see the core of the scorching sunflower and Appo's rapidly shifting position. Trying to run, are you? The godly Zhuge crossbow was again in hand, loaded with a complete set of bolts. Assisted by the Golden Rock bloodline, the bolts shot out violently, directly covering the opponent and Appo's core. Meanwhile, Tang San pulled Sky Shatterer back with the blue-silver Emperor vine, caught the hammer, and flung it out with explosive energy, using the Lion-Tiger Golden Force and Appo's repelling effect. Beams of fire crisscrossed trying to intercept the bolts. However, with the Golden Rock bloodline and Appo's augmentation, the bolts were so fast that before the fire beams were even shot out, they had already passed by, drilling into the numerous vines of the scorching sunflower. A scream followed, and the intense firepower significantly weakened. Thanks to the repelling force it was imbued with, Sky Shatterer deflected the many fire beams striking it and headed straight for the core. As it turned out, the scorching sunflower was a typical glass cannon. It was extremely strong in attack, with attacks that covered all ranges and a wide area. The intense, pure yang fiery beams were so powerful that once an opponent was within range, all they could do was wait to be incinerated. However, its apparent invulnerability was just that, apparent. If its core was destroyed, it would die instantly. Numerous vines were blasted apart, and the nymph's very own fire turned them ablaze. It was as if a fiery rain of light was falling from the sky. The remaining vines retracted, and the sunflowers blooming from them withered immediately. Only then did Tang San notice the entire arena was riddled with holes, burnt with numerous gaps and charred black. I surrender sounded a somewhat helpless voice. As the numerous vines converged inward, the humanoid body of the scorching sunflower reappeared in front of Tang San. All the vines and scorching sunflowers vanished. His face was terribly pale, and he was now holding Tang San and Appo's Sky Shatterer, clearly with some difficulty. On the surface it was hard to see how seriously he was injured, but his aura had significantly weakened. Tang San didn't and Appo's looked much better. His clothes and hair were singed in many places, and he was panting heavily, with each breath accompanied by hot steam, showing just how fierce the opponent and Appo's flames had been. If it weren't and Appo's for Crystalline and Appo's timely assistance, Tang San would have had to use the Polar Luck Domain to fight. Only by using the Polar Luck Domain would he have had the confidence to defeat this opponent. This opponent was truly too strong. Can you tell me what material this hammer is made of? The Scorching Sunflower contestant in Appo's voice was very pleasant. He looked shocked as he gazed at the hammer in his hand. Tang San shook his head. He couldn't and Appo's let anyone know the secret of the Heavenly Fire Essence Iron. I can trade with you. Tell me what you want. I can offer a high price if you and Appo's willing to sell. The Scorching Sunflower seemed quite eager. Tang San and Appo's mouth twitched. Your sunborn nymph emperor even sold a petal of its own flower. How much could you possibly offer? Can you afford it? This is more or less a divine weapon, Tang San said. As expected, the opponent fell silent. Scratching his head, he said, Can you give me a way to contact you? I and Appo's LL go back and discuss it first. I and Appo's LL be here participating in individual and double match competitions. You can come find me, Tang San replied. Alright, here you go. As he spoke, the Scorching Sunflower tossed Sky Shatterer back to Tang San, looking reluctant. It was clear that the reluctance was not related to the match, however. He was just very interested in Tang San and Appo's hammer. Oh, by the way, how did you find my solar core? There's no way it was that easy. I thought I hid it very well. Forget about spiritual power. Even if you had divine consciousness, you still couldn't see it just like that. How did you do it? If I said it was luck, would you believe me? Tang San replied helplessly. The opponent sure had a lot of questions. He was also incredibly powerful. In fact, Tang San still felt like his insides were burning. He wouldn't and Appo's have held out if not for the yin-yang energy adjusting the energy flow and calming down the heat. If he happened to face a Scorching Sunflower in the future, he had to attack immediately and not let them grow all their vines and sunflowers. Otherwise, it would be too difficult. To be honest, no. But to be honest, I also can't find any other explanation, so maybe you really were lucky. The Scorching Sunflower seemed troubled. Well, alright, I and Appo's LL find you later. By the way, what in Appo's your name? I and Appo's Xing Shi. I and Appo's Azura, Tang San replied. The match is over. You can leave now. Group 3 number 6 wins, the referee, who had been listening for a while, finally announced. He would have shooed them off the stage earlier if not for one of them being a Scorching Sunflower, and the other earning such a surprising victory. See you later. I need to go back and figure out how I lost. This ISN and Appo's possible, not possible at all. Xing Shi muttered to himself as he left the stage. Tang San walked off the stage feeling rather weak. The heat inside his body was unbearable. He took out a new set of clothes, quickly put them on, and tidied his slightly scorched hair. His mouth twitched. Thankfully, he had a mask to cover his face. Otherwise, he and Appo's looked terrible in front of Mei Gongzi. The Scorching Sunflower clan was truly a powerful clan. Without Crystalline and Appo's help, defeating them today without using his divine consciousness would have required revealing some of the abilities that he very much wanted to keep hidden. However, through today and Appo's battle with the Scorching Sunflower, Tang San gained more understanding of the nymph races. The Scorching Sunflower clan and Appo's bloodline power could even counteract spatial abilities. Even Mei Gongzi might have difficulty facing them. However, there were ways to counteract them. Though their offensive abilities were strong, their defense wasn't and Appo's exceptionally high. The solar beams were extremely powerful, but not well suited as a shield. If an opponent had extremely high speed and explosive power, they might manage a quick victory as long as they weren't too afraid of being burned. Of course, this was easier said than done. The Scorching Sunflower and Appo's fire was extremely fierce, among the top flames in this world. This victory also stirred the spectators, especially in the VIP seats. The high-ranking nobles knew better about the strength of the scorching sunflower contestant, Xianxia. He was one of the new generation and Appo's best in the scorching sunflower clan. Not only was he from the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's clan, but he was personally mentored by the Emperor, and was even a top 10 heir to the Sunborn Palace. Yet he had lost in the second match of the group stage, and to a human no less. This human didn't and Appo's seemed to have powerful abilities. He just used an array disc and some strange ranged weapons. The only unique thing seemed to be the hammer that could handle the heat of the solar beams. Yet even without showing any particularly outstanding abilities, he had dispatched one of the top nymph contestants, and moreover, he had done so after allowing the opponent to unleash all his abilities. At this moment in the spectator stands, there was a tall and burly figure that looked somewhat bruised and battered. This person with a disgruntled expression was none other than Tang San and Appo's opponent from the previous round, Mao Wenwu of the Golden Mammoth clan. I told you I didn't and Appo's lose on purpose. Grandpa insisted I was lazy and didn't and Appo's want to continue, so I lost on purpose and he beat me up. Now he knows he was wrong, right? Even that scorching sunflower guy lost. Can you guys blame me for losing? When he found out he was grouped with the scorching sunflower, he was somewhat frustrated. Although he had some confidence in relying on his strong defense to withstand the opponent and Appo's attacks and charge to victory, he would probably end up like a roasted pig, or rather a roasted elephant, and that wouldn't and Appo's feel good at all. But losing to a human in the first match was something he never expected. Others didn't and Appo's see it that way either. When he went back, his father beat him up, and his grandfather scolded him for being lazy. Now seeing Xianxia also lose to that human called Azura, he felt great satisfaction. At least it proved he hadn't lost the match on purpose. Didn't an Appo's that Xianxia guy also lose? They were on the same level. He had lost the day before yesterday, and now Xianxia lost today, which meant he hadn't thrown the match. A forceful slap hit the back of his head, causing Mao Wenwu to lurch forward, almost colliding with the spectator in front of him. He instantly turned around to glare at the person behind him. It was a figure even taller and more muscular than him. Why did you hit me? Doesn't an Appo's this prove I wasn't an Appo's lazy? Mao Wenwu retorted. The burly figure behind him said coldly, the hell does it prove again? How long did he hold out and how long did you? He made his opponent struggle. What about you? Do you even have any idea how you lost? Just wait till we return home. I and Appo's I'll deal with you then. Tang San had no idea about the shadow looming over the mammoth and Appo's mind. At this moment, he had returned to the waiting area. Seeing his disheveled appearance, Big Cat and Appo's expression was somewhat peculiar, a mixture of wanting to laugh but feeling a bit embarrassed to do so. It was the first time he was seeing Azura in such a sorry state. Even his mask seemed partially melted, showing just how challenging the previous battle had been. Against these types with powerful area attacks, you need to burst in and attack immediately, not giving them a chance to unleash their offensive. Otherwise you and Appo's going to suffer, Big Cat said. Mei Gongzi, on the other hand, frowned as she approached Tang San. Are you okay? Are you badly hurt? Ignoring Big Cat, Tang San immediately smiled. I and Appo's am fine really. That guy and Appo's flames were powerful. I could have won earlier, but I wanted to see the full extent of the fighting power of these strong nymphs. How can I show weakness in front of the person I love? This was a man and Appo's nature, whether that man was a teenager or a god king. Big Cat and Appo's mouth twitched as he turned away. Mei Gongzi said, Big brother, your luck is horrible. How do you keep encountering first-tier bloodline powerhouses every round? Tang San and Appo's mouth twitched. You ask me, but who should I ask? It and Appo's fine. As long as our luck improves in the doubles matches, it and Appo's all good. Indeed, compared to the doubles, what did the singles matter? Winning here was far less important than keeping his core abilities secret. However, losing the doubles match with Mei Gongzi was unacceptable. Big Cat laughed heartily. Brother Azura, your luck is something else. Facing two emperor clans in a row, you and Appo's. Do you expect this in the final stages? You and Appo's V encountered it in the first 2 elimination rounds. I wonder if there are any other Emperor clan members in your group. Tang-san retorted irritably. Don and Appos. T jinx it. Big Cat shrugged and said, if we encounter them, so be it. The whole point of the competition is to hone ourselves through battle. I and Appos. D love to face a strong opponent later. It will push me to improve. He spoke with sincerity, and Tang-san could feel his burning battle spirit. Big Cat was indeed a natural-born warrior. Only on the battlefield could he shine most brilliantly, especially in life and death struggles. He had fought his way out of the great beast fighting arena in Cali City, sustaining an entire clan. This was not just grit and hard work but also talent. And after resolving his bloodline conflict, his fighting spirit could no longer be suppressed. Behind Tang-san thus stood a monstrous lion tiger who had just broken out of his cage, ready to devour his opponents. Mei Gongzi helped Tang-san find a place to sit down. He was in bad shape and he felt as if he was burning up from within. He sat cross-legged and began circulating his internal energy to heal himself. With the doubles match tomorrow, he needed to recover quickly. However, today in Appos' battle made him appreciate the utility of yin-yang energy even more. Although his yin-yang energy was only at a basic level, it had played a significant role today, greatly neutralizing the extreme heat of the scorching sunflower and Appos' fire. Without it, things would have been much more brutal. He needed to continue improving it as much as he could. After today in Appos' matches, Tang-san thus planned to return to Sunborn Sacred Mountain and Earthshade Sacred Mountain to continue cultivating and evolving his yin-yang energy. Today in Appos' matches were even more intense and exciting than the day before. With the experience of the first round, the remaining contestants were showcasing more and more their abilities. At the same time, the matches also became bloodier, with some participants heavily injuring or even killing their opponents. No one came out to stop these killings. Even though these contestants were elites from various powerful clans, no one intervened. This was the survival of the fittest among the demon and nymph races. To become stronger, they needed to challenge and defeat tough opponents, and challenge themselves at the same time. Only through this could they continuously improve and eventually become leaders of their clans. An hour later, it was finally time for the 6th group to compete, and Big Cat was already in the waiting area, raring to go at it. After a period of meditation, Tang-san and Appos' condition improved significantly. The yin-yang energy played a significant role in neutralizing the fire energy that was practically poison to Tang-san. Indeed, rather than the burns he had suffered, the main issue was actually the invasion of extreme yang flames. Once that was resolved, he was in much better shape despite his rather disheveled appearance. Naturally, he wanted to watch Big Cat and Appos' match. A handsome man sat in the higher corner of the VIP seats, closely following the matches. When he saw Big Cat enter the arena, his gaze focused. He narrowed his eyes and murmured, Azura, Lion Tiger Sword Saint. This man was none other than Mei Gongzi and Appos' father, the Peacock Great Demon King. After meeting Azura and Big Cat and learning they were from Cali City, he immediately had their backgrounds and situations investigated. He discovered they had faced off in the Great Beast Fighting Arena in Cali City. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint was famous enough for even the city lord to hear of him. Naturally, the Peacock Great Demon King had heard that he had lost to a human. As it turned out, it was precisely the human accompanying him here. That human had caused a stir among the human race by continuously winning team battles in the Great Beast Fighting Arena. He had come to the Ancestral Court to participate in the Great Beast Fighting Arena as well. The Peacock Great Demon King wondered why there was no information about that, and seemed quite close to his daughter. How could he not pay attention to this human? Thus, he had been following Azura and Big Cat since the first round. When Azura faced the Golden Mammoth youth, he wasn't terribly optimistic about the boy's chances. The Golden Mammoth clan in Appos' emperor was once nicknamed No Weak Points. It had an invincible defense and never gave his opponents any chance. How could a human break through its descendants' defense? He couldn't in Appos'. Imagine Azura winning, yet against all chances Azura won. And the Peacock Great Demon King had no idea how. Despite being a god-level powerhouse, he couldn't in Appos' used divine consciousness to probe the contestants during the Ancestral Court Elite competition. This was a major taboo. He even asked Mei Gongzi afterward, but she didn't and Appo's. Know how Azura had won either. Big Cat and Appo's match had also shocked him. He had not expected such a decisive kill in such absolute force. The explosion of power brought an intense visual impact. The Peacock Great Demon King didn't and Appo's need to ask his subordinates about it. He understood that this Lion Tiger Sword Saint had undergone some transformation, becoming stronger in a way that a second-tier bloodline couldn't and Appo's achieve. He knew about the bloodline conflict of the Lion Tiger clan, but from Big Cat, he didn't and Appo's sensed this conflict. What does this mean? Has their bloodline mutated and evolved into a first-tier bloodline? That would be an incredible development. Moreover, had Big Cat evolved independently, or had the entire Lion Tiger clan found a solution to their bloodline conflict? It would be a game-changer for the lion and tiger races if it were the latter. Neither race had a first-tier bloodline inheritance. The White Tiger Demon Emperor had only reached that level due to a bloodline mutation. If the Lion Tiger clan's bloodline evolved into a first-tier bloodline, it would significantly alter the dynamics of the lion and tiger races. This made the Peacock Great Demon King pay more attention to Big Cat than Tang San. After all, Azura and Appo's victory was somewhat inexplicable. He had also watched the doubles match featuring his daughter and Azura. In that doubles match, the battle ended quickly. His daughter and Appo's combat prowess was unquestionable. Even Hikuden and Appo's find fault with her mastery of space. After the ancestral inheritance, she seemed wholly merged with space, rapidly progressing and mastering it to an extraordinary degree. But what about that Azura? He still couldn't and Appo's understand how the young human had won. The attacks of the Corpse Devourer nymph had simply vanished. Compared to the Spider Tree nymph, the Corpse Devourer nymph, which specialized in poison, was more difficult to deal with, yet he had still won. Then today, Azura once again defeated the descendant of an emperor, this time from the mighty Scorching Sunflower clan. The battle lasted a long time, and he managed to withstand the Scorching Sunflower and Appo's powerful attacks, eventually defeating his opponent. His hammer was notable, but the victory wasn't in Appo's just about the hammer. This Azura is quite interesting. If the first win was a fluke, then were the other two victories flukes as well? In the two solo matches, his opponents were top-level fighters with first-tier bloodlines. How could they possibly make rookie mistakes at this level? At this moment, Big Cat entered the arena again, and the Peacock Great Demon King and Appo's attention naturally focused on this match. The opponent also appeared. To the Peacock Great Demon King and Appo's surprise, Big Cat and Appo's opponent was also from the Golden Mammoth clan. With a similarly robust physique and wielding dual hammers, this opponent was clearly at the same level as Mao Wenwu. As a top-tier clan, the Golden Mammoth clan naturally had more than one participant. There was one in Tang San and Appo's third group and one in the Big Cat and Appo's sixth group. It seemed his luck wasn't and Appo's much better than Tang San and Appo's since he met such a formidable opponent in the second round. When Tang San and Mei Gongzi saw Big Cat and Appo's opponent, their expressions turned grave. The Golden Mammoth clan was not easy to deal with. Although Tang San and Appo's battle with Mao Wenwu hadn't lasted long, the opponent and Appo's formidable defense had left a deep impression on him. He had barely managed to break through using a combination of various bloodline abilities, and sending his yin-yang energy inside to mess with Mao Wenwu and Appo's heart. Otherwise, the battle would have been as difficult as today and Appo's. Big Cat didn't and Appo's have as many bloodline abilities as Tang San. So, how would he handle this opponent? Tang San hoped Big Cat could prove himself to the lion and tiger races through this elite competition. Naturally, losing in the second elimination round would not be ideal. Let the match begin. On the battlefield, as the referee announced the start, yet another battle of titans officially began. The Golden Mammoth contestant pounded its chest with its twin hammers, emitting a dull thud, before charging at Big Cat. Big Cat gripped his heavy sword. To the spectator's surprise, he showed no intention of dodging, and instead charged directly at his opponent. Stimulated by the improved lion-tiger bloodline power, his physique began to swell, reaching over 4 meters in height within moments, with muscles bulging powerfully. The dazzling white lion tiger golden force burst forth. However, compared to his opponent, his stature was dwarfed. The golden mammoth contestant was a towering giant, nearly twice Big Cat and Appo's height and with bulging muscles all over. The golden flames wrapping its body soared as it swung its massive hammers and charged forward. The impressive momentum from both sides immediately captivated the spectators. When 30 meters remained between them, Big Cat stomped the stage, causing it to cave in. He shot forward and a furious roar echoed in the sky. A massive lion-tiger head phantom appeared behind him, unleashing a terrifying and mighty roar. The golden mammoth's charge seemed unstoppable, yet upon hearing that roar, it actually paused for an instant, and its movements stiffened momentarily. Ordinary spectators might not have noticed this brief change, but many noble spectators in the VIP section turned pale. This was especially true for the lion and tiger race powerhouses. They knew very well how strong the Golden Mammoth clan was, an unquestionably formidable first-tier bloodline, the ruler clan of the elephant race, and their mightiest warriors. However, the Golden Mammoth contestant and Appo's body instinctively reacted to Big Cat and Appo's roar. In their minds, only two words appeared: bloodline suppression. Yes, the Golden Mammoth and Appo's bloodline was suppressed by that roar of the lion tiger. In the natural world, there was little interference between elephants on one side and lions and tigers on the other. The issue of bloodline suppression wasn't a thing, but either way they hardly ever fought against each other. However, lions and tigers were the true kings of beasts. One ruled the grasslands, the other the forest. On the other hand, when clans of the lion and tiger races faced the Golden Mammoth clan, not being suppressed by their bloodline could be considered quite the achievement. After all, their golden lineage was only a second-tier bloodline, while the Golden Mammoth's was first-tier. Yet now, given that the lion-tiger sword saint suppressed the Golden Mammoth with his bloodline power, it meant his bloodline tier was not only not inferior to his opponent and Appo's but actually surpassed it. No lion demon or tiger demon had ever possessed such a strong bloodline besides the white tiger demon emperor. How could the lion and tiger race's noble members not be astonished? As the roar erupted in midair, Big Cat gripped his sword with both hands, and the lion-tiger golden force surged. His eyes turned utterly white-hot, with platinum-white light seeping from the corners. In this instant, his physique, bloodline power and spiritual power all peaked, and he unleashed his full power with intense battle intent. The Golden Mammoth swung its twin hammers upward, aiming at the diving Big Cat. This was a pure test of strength, leaving no room for trickery. The deafening crash momentarily paused the battles in the other two arenas. Many spectators in the stands covered their ears, yet their heads still buzzed. Platinum and gold intermingled. The instantaneous clash was genuinely breathtaking. The white-hot figure bounced back, flying out. But the golden glowing figure didn't end Appo's farewell either. It was simply driven into the stage up to its knees. Big Cat flipped in midair and landed, staggering back 5 steps before steadying himself. A flush rose on his face. His opponent, the Golden Mammoth contestant, had slightly bulging eyes, and the golden glow it radiated dimmed noticeably. The twin hammers it wielded bore obvious cuts. Big Cat didn't even give himself time to catch his breath. As soon as he steadied himself, he began another charge, leaping into the air with his heavy sword once more igniting in white-hot light. The fierce lion-tiger golden force burned anew. Another thunderous roar erupted as he struck at his opponent. At this moment the Golden Mammoth hadn't and Appo's yet pulled its legs from the ground, and the ferocious roar forced it to halt. As the blazing white light descended again, the golden aura rose once more to meet it. The second collision between hammers and sword erupted mere seconds after the first, and it was in no way quieter. The fierce clamor and explosive energy waves caused countless demon and nymph spectators to rise from their seats. This was the battle they wanted to see. A powerful clash that made their blood surge. It was simply exhilarating. Big Cat was again sent flying, but the Golden Mammoth was also driven further into the stage. It now buried halfway up the thighs. As Big Cat landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His physical strength was not on par with his opponent's. Naturally, these intense, head-on physical collisions caused him more injury. But even as he spat blood, he leaped high again, his heavy sword slashing toward his opponent for the third time. There was no hesitation, no sign of rest. Fight till death. Just keep fighting. The white and golden energies exploded. This time it was clear that Big Cat and Appo's heavy sword was bending. Even under the reinforcement of Lion Tiger Golden Force, it was barely holding up against such a ferocious clash. Before Big Cat landed this time, he was already spewing blood mid-air. His opponent, the Golden Mammoth contestant, was also bleeding from both nose and mouth. For a Golden Mammoth to be injured, it was clear how brutal their collision had been. Moreover, the Golden Mammoth and Appo's legs had already sunk into the stage almost up to his waist. He didn't and Appo's get the chance to pull himself out either. As soon as Big Cat landed, he ignored his injuries and crazily leaped up again. The heavy sword in his hand still emitted a blazing platinum light as he struck down once more. This time, the look in the eyes of the Golden Mammoth contestant began to change. Is this guy fucking crazy? He's more injured than me, and he can't possibly have my defense. Why is he attacking so wildly without even giving himself a chance to catch his breath? Although the Golden Mammoth and Appo's defense was strong, it had its limits. What terrified the demon was that even though the opponent was injured, each sword strike was more potent than the last, and its power more violent. As for the Golden Mammoth's twin hammers, though they were exceptional weapons, they were now covered in cuts. It couldn't and Appo's dodge at all and had to take the hits head-on, unable to use its bloodline abilities properly. But he had no more time to think as the heavy sword descended from the sky, fiercely slashing down. Even though the sword had bent a bit, its majestic momentum hadn't and Appo's diminished in the slightest. This time Big Cat wasn't and Appo's flung far away but shot straight up into the air. The Golden Mammoth was now properly waist-deep in the ground, and it spat out a mouthful of blood. One of its war hammers had half of its head chopped off, which went to show the ferocity of that strike. While in midair, Big Cat took a deep breath. He once more pumped bloodline energy into his Lion Tiger Golden Force, and it burst out with even more dazzling brilliance. Descending from the sky, he struck down again, after an even shorter time. Even though this was the 5th strike already and he was tired and injured, it was so majestic and overwhelming that the spectators were awed. No fancy moves, just pure power and relentless attacks. The Golden Mammoth let out a roar, and the golden light it radiated suddenly surged as if it had ignited its energy. A golden halo even appeared behind its head. The ground around its embedded lower body began to crack, clearly showing that he was about to use a powerful move. But then the platinum light in midair flickered. The platinum light from around the Lion Tiger sword saint suddenly converged inward, completely merging into his heavy sword. Under the enhancement of the platinum light, the sword became almost transparent. The golden blaze was directly split in half by the platinum light, and it continued unimpeded to clash once more with the mammoth demon's hammers. Both figures spewed blood simultaneously. Big Cat flew backward again, while the Golden Mammoth was now buried in the ground up to its chest. Big Cat and Appo's heavy sword had been shattered, and so had the Golden Mammoth and Appo's twin hammers. Both of their hands were split open, and blood was flowing like rivers. Big Cat landed far away, staggering continuously and spitting blood before finally falling on his butt. Even so, he still struggled to get up and walk toward the Golden Mammoth step by step. And with each step, the platinum light ignited again, still blazing fiercely. The Golden Mammoth contestant, now without its twin hammers, was bleeding profusely from its nose and mouth, and its eyes showed a look of horror. Madman, this guy is a complete madman. The platinum white light burst forth once more, and despite clearly being severely injured, Big Cat leaped into the air again. Without his heavy sword, he still had his fists. Swinging his fist enveloped in the Lion Tiger Golden Force, he aimed a heavy blow at his opponent and Appo's head. The Golden Mammoth contestant was now sunk into the ground up to its chest and properly immobilized. Facing Big Cat and Appo's ferocious assault, its psychological defenses finally collapsed. The madman is trying to take me down with him. This is already going bad for me, and he's only getting stronger with every attack. A few more hits and I might die. Big Cat and Appo's fist smashed into the ground beside it, missing it by a hair and Appo's breadth. The massive power of the strike left a crater in the stage, and at the same time, the golden mammoth was flung out of the hole and landed somewhere in the distance, square on its butt. The shockwave caused it to vomit blood. At that moment it saw Big Cat crouched on the ground gasping for breath. But then Big Cat slowly lifted his head and looked at his opponent. A cruel smile appeared on his blood-stained lips. The sight sent a shiver down the golden mammoth and Appo's spine. This guy is a real madman. But the next moment Big Cat swayed and collapsed, fainting on the spot. The golden mammoth contestant almost turned crazy. This guy was done for. If I had just withstood that last hit, I might have won. Sadly, for it might have meant nothing more than might have. The result was set in stone the moment it said I concede. The referee thus announced Big Cat and Appo's victory. Immediately, staff came on stage to treat both contestants and carried them off, while other staff members got to work on the stage. This stage was temporarily unusable due to the severe damage and needed repairs. In the VIP seats, the noble powerhouses of the lion and tiger races had wavering gazes and complex expressions. They all remained silent, lost in thought. The lion-tiger contestant had won. He had defeated a golden mammoth. Not only that, but he had won by breaking his opponent's will through sheer power and making it concede. It was unbelievable. This lion-tiger clan warrior was so formidable that he made their blood boil with excitement. Is this really a member of a cursed clan? Is their bloodline really cursed? This thought appeared in their minds almost simultaneously. This was an extremely exciting match. The spectators were cheering and thrilled. It was the kind of match they most wanted to see. Tang San was already waiting when Big Cat was carried off the stage. He took the unconscious Big Cat from the staff and immediately channeled his internal energy into him, intending to stabilize his injuries. But in the next moment he was stunned. Big Cat actually opened one eye slightly and winked at him. Tang San immediately understood. Without showing any change in expression, he hoisted the massive Big Cat onto his back. Now that the lion-tiger golden force was no longer, Big Cat had returned to his normal size, but he was still 2.5 meters in height and quite bulky, making him cumbersome to carry. His legs dragged on the ground, but Tang San somehow managed. That was amazing. Amazing, I tell you. Big Cat and Appo's voice came to Tang San and Appo's ear. I Haven and Appo's had such a satisfying fight in a long time. And you know what, your method works. I suffered the most during the first clash. That one really cost me. But I also absorbed some of its power, and then I added the absorbed power to the repelling effect when I struck the second time. I wasn't in Appo's hurt at all then. After that, I could just keep borrowing strength from it and use that as my weapon. That dumb elephant thought I was trading injuries with him. Wishful thinking. Tang San was amused. So all that continuous spitting of blood is just an act? All the spectators probably thought it was a brutal match, but Big Cat and Appo's injuries were far less severe than they imagined. The absorption and repulsion technique Tang San had proposed just hours before was already being used quite effectively. The golden mammoth contestant fell into Big Cat and Appo's trap from the beginning. It could have shattered the ground and moved away during Big Cat and Appo's second attack, then used its bloodline abilities like War Stomp. That would have indeed been a tough fight. But Big Cat and Appo's continuous act of spitting up blood made the opponent believe it could win by just holding on a bit longer. In the end, however, it couldn't, and Appo's hold on. It was like a sitting duck for Big Cat and Appo's strikes. Anyone who thinks Big Cat is just a simple-minded brute is the real simple-minded brute. He is fully utilizing his advantages while attacking the opponent and Appo's weaknesses. In terms of combat experience, this guy is nearly flawless. Tang San could fully imagine how formidable Big Cat would be once he reached the god level. He smiled faintly, and his expression was somewhat different as he looked at Big Cat. A person like him was truly worthy of Tang San's respect. Returning to the waiting area, Tang San found a corner where Big Cat could rest. Mei Gongzi came over and whispered, "How is he?" Tang San said he got a bit injured. Let and Appo's let him rest for now. Many contestants were paying attention to Big Cat, who had just finished his match, so it was not a good time to discuss his condition. This fight made Mei Gongzi see Big Cat in a new light. With this, Azura and Big Cat had defeated 3 first-tier bloodline powerhouses. Although the Ancestral Court Elite competition was filled with strong contenders, there weren't and oppos many at this level. Defeating such opponents undoubtedly meant that Azura and Big Cat were at that tier themselves. Big brother Azura, this friend of yours is also from Cali City, right? When she called him Big Brother, Tang San felt as if his bones had lightened by a few pounds, and he replied gently, the Lion-Tiger clan were excluded by the lion and tiger races. They're practically outcasts. They and oppos, we've been living in a village near Cali City. Don and oppos worry. They are our allies and they and oppos. I'll always be our allies. Just from those few words, Tang San immediately understood what she was getting at, and immediately reassured her. After all, his initial intention in helping and recruiting the Lion-Tiger clan was in fact to support Mei Gongzi in inheriting the position of City Lord. Next, Mei Gongzi and oppos' luck was much better compared to Tang San's and Big Cat's. Her opponent had a second-tier bloodline and stood no chance against Mei Gongzi and oppos' mastery of space, losing without much resistance. The three of them thus advanced to the next round of the knockout competition. Out of over 300 participants, only 90 or so remained after 2 rounds of elimination. 3 more rounds would determine who would advance from each group to the final round. The Ancestral Court Elite competition and oppos' knockout system was ruthless, but it saved time. Winning 9 consecutive matches made one the champion, which was even faster than the team elimination matches Tang San had participated in before. Big Cat naturally needed to return to their lodging to heal himself, and Mei Gongzi also returned to her place. Although Tang San and oppos' physical state wasn't oppos' at its best either, he decided not to return to the White Tiger Hotel but to head to the Earthshade Sacred Mountain instead. At this moment, he was still feeling a burning sensation in his organs caused by the scorching sunflower and oppos' extreme yang energy. Anyone else heading to the Earthshade Sacred Mountain in such a state would be courting death, plain and simple. The clash between yin and yang would destroy them from the inside out. But he was different. He had the yin-yang energy vortex, which allowed him to regulate the balance of yin and yang within his body. Absorbing the extreme yin energy from the Earthshade Sacred Mountain could harmonize the yang fire within him, balancing the two, resolving the problem, and simultaneously enhancing his yin-yang energy. Although Tang San did not know what would be the end result if he continued cultivating yin-yang energy, the extreme yin and yang were among the most fundamental energies in the universe. It definitely wouldn't hurt to have more. He would have been wary of his daughter noticing his cultivation, but to his surprise, after helping him, Crystalline had once again fallen into slumber. It seemed that she wasn't ready to truly wake up yet. He didn't and oppos' know how long she would sleep. It was somewhat like a child needing more sleep during development, and the energy she gained naturally came from Tang San. As expected, just as Tang San had predicted, when he arrived at the Earthshade Sacred Mountain and began cultivating, the intruding extreme yang fire within him was immediately neutralized by the yin energy. They balanced each other out, transforming into yin-yang energy and being absorbed into his blue-silver emperor imprint. The previously devoured essence of the spider tree nymph was also quickly being digested thanks to the overall increase in his yin-yang energy. By the end of today and oppos' cultivation, the essence of the second-tier bloodline was nearly digested. He needed to continue with the bloodline imprint of the corpse-devouring nymph to maintain the balance of yin-yang energy. Tang San was happy about this. The faster the blue-silver emperor imprint progressed, the faster his cultivation of yin-yang energy progressed as well. In the upcoming matches, he would likely encounter powerful nymphs, so he would be able to obtain some good bloodline power. Unfortunately, he had been unable to obtain the bloodline of the scorching sunflower today. Due to the latter's fierce attacks, he simply had no chance to get close enough. Although the two sides ended up approaching for a conversation, if Tang San had gotten close enough to touch his opponent and absorb his bloodline, it would have aroused suspicion immediately. However, Tang San thought it through and felt that it wasn't necessarily a loss. The scorching sunflower's attribute was extreme yang, and it was unlikely to be suitable for the blue-silver emperor. In fact, with the foundation of the blue-silver emperor, he wasn't sure whether it could even process such a powerful bloodline, and if it couldn't and oppos' be devoured, it might disrupt the balance of yin-yang energy, which would net him a solid loss. In any case, he had enough to continue his cultivation for now. Bloodline advancement could not be achieved overnight, especially with the simultaneous presence of yin-yang energy. Tang San needed to be particularly cautious, as this was a completely self-created variant bloodline. All improvements had to be made gradually, step by step. That night, he cultivated at both the Earthshade Sacred Mountain and the Sunborn Sacred Mountain, while devouring the imprint of the corpse-devouring nymph. It was already past midnight when he returned to his residence, but he was in a great mood. The fire poison he had absorbed during the day had been neutralized, and his yin-yang energy had advanced further. Tang San also discovered that nourishing the yin-yang energy also enhanced his physical strength. Additionally, this yin-yang energy could be applied to other attack abilities, although right now that was limited to close-quarters combat, since he had to inject it into the opponent's body. Big Cat's most recent fight had a significant impact on him. It looked like a plain old clash of strength with hardly any subtleties involved, but in reality, every slash from Big Cat and Appo's sword had behind it a perfect focus of his physical power, bloodline power, and spiritual power. Moreover, during this process, he had to adjust the devouring and repelling effects of the Lion-Tiger Golden Force, coordinating them in order to imbue as much power as possible into the heavy sword. This was no easy task. In terms of cultivation, Big Cat had only recently returned to the Ninth Order due to his bloodline fusion, and had not yet reached the peak of the Ninth Order. On the other hand, his opponent was a peak Ninth Order powerhouse from a top-tier clan. Even under these circumstances, his opponent couldn't and Appo's withstand his attacks, which showed Big Cat and Appo's ferocity. Moreover, much of his severe injuries at the end were just for show. Big Cat and Appo's battle experience and control over his abilities made him the strongest among the same-level fighters Tang San had encountered in this world. He was a natural-born warrior, both brave and cunning. Tang San and Appo's current fighting style involved heavy use of Sky Shatterer, but as his opponents grew stronger, he found it increasingly insufficient. The hammer, though forged from heavenly fire essence iron, had not undergone much refinement, and Tang San and Appo's cultivation was just not up to par. Although it had allowed him to restrain the scorching sunflower to some extent, it would have been much easier to deal with the nymph if the material's potential had been fully tapped into and the hammer had been refined to the level of a divine weapon. Once he got back to Kali City, it seemed that he needed to craft some good weapons. This made Tang San recall 2 divine weapons from his previous life. Unfortunately, he couldn't and Appo's use them now unless it was a situation of utmost desperation. Using them would likely cause every demon and nymph powerhouse to chase him, so he would never use them unless necessary. When he woke up with the morning light outside, he had only meditated for 2 hours. Although he still felt somewhat mentally exhausted, his physical condition had returned to its peak. He had a doubles match today and couldn't and Appo's rest like Big Cat. He first cultivated the purple demon eyes and then went to the restaurant for breakfast. When he arrived at the restaurant, he happened to meet his companions. The recent period of cultivation at the ancestral court had brought significant changes to his companions. The improvement in physical fitness made everyone look vibrant. Wu Bingji and Appo's demeanor had become increasingly cool and detached. He was already handsome, but now he exuded an otherworldly aura, which made Chang Zicheng and Appo's gaze rarely leave him. Chang Zicheng herself seemed to have found her direction, and she was becoming increasingly feminine. Her long hair flowed behind her, and her eyes shone brightly. Her occasional sweet smiles were mainly directed at the eldest senior brother, of course. Guli had become more composed. His physical strength was quite a bit greater, yet his aura was more restrained. Unlike before, he was no longer on the ostentatious side, but seemed perfectly calm. He was still climbing Crystal's sacred mountain, continuously challenging his own limits. Every day he spent some time at the sacred mountain, and upon returning, he would ponder deeply and train hard, progressing by leaps and bounds. Dubai had earned somewhat of an ethereal aura. He gave off a very peculiar feeling, as if he was very present, yet at the same time not quite there. At the same time, his presence brought others comfort, and when people saw him, even their negative emotions seemed to vanish. His climb of Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain had not been in vain. His mastery of the celestial fox transformation had deepened significantly. Thanks to Tang San helping him enhance his bloodline, the level of his celestial fox transformation was incomparable to what it used to be, and the way he was now, he could truly influence an entire battlefield. Dubai sat beside Tang San and whispered, "Little Tang, are you participating in that competition?" I and Appos. V noticed fewer people climbing the sacred mountain lately. It seems they and Appos. All going to watch that competition. Are the opponents strong? How do they compare to the ones we faced in the great beast fighting arena? Tang San said of course they and Appos. Strong. At the very least, they all have second-tier bloodlines and are quite tough to deal with. I even encountered first-tier bloodlines. The competition is exciting, so it and Appos. Naturally attracting much attention. This is an event even more important than the grand auction. Wu Bingji said, I wonder if we can go watch. It would certainly broaden our horizons. Hearing his words, Tang San felt that they made sense. Since arriving at the ancestral court, his companions had all made significant progress in their cultivation but hadn't and Appos. Engaged in much actual combat. They weren't and Appos. Ready to participate in the ancestral court elite competition yet, as their cultivation levels were still lacking. However, watching the tournament was a great opportunity. They could see the top-tier clashes between the best of the younger generation, not just among the demons but also the nymphs. Such an opportunity was indeed rare. I think it and Appos is possible. I and Appos. Go to the Etherhorn Merchant Association to get you tickets. They should be able to get them. After today and Appos. Competition I and Appos. Take care of it, and then you can go watch the matches. The remaining matches Shuden and Appos. Take too long, about half a day, and then you can continue your cultivation. Really? That and Appos. Great, Chung Zicheng exclaimed excitedly. Is there an immortal flame phoenix competing? I and Appos love to see it. I and Appos. V been climbing the undying demon emperor and Appos. Sacred mountain lately, and it feels different. The bloodline pressure is excruciating, but it seems to have a strong stimulating effect on my bloodline. I and Appos. Am really curious to see how they perform in battle. Tang San said I haven't and Appos. Encountered them yet, but I and Appos. Am sure they are participating. All the powerful clans are. Alright then I and Appos. Count on you to get the tickets, Chang Zicheng said happily. Tang San turned to look at Dubai and said, Senior brother Dubai, you probably can and Appos. Watch the competition. There and Appos. A rule that members of the Celestial Fox clan cannot participate in the Ancestral Court Elite competition to ensure fairness. They can and Appos. Even be spectators. Moreover, you and Appos. A human with the Celestial Fox bloodline, and that cannot be exposed. You and Appos. Better keep climbing the mountain. Dubai and Appos' face fell. Why is it always me? This ISN and Appos fair. Guli threw an arm around his shoulder and chuckled. In this world there and Appos. No such thing as absolute fairness. Just bear with it, kid. Humph. Dubai snorted arrogantly but said nothing more. After breakfast, Tang San hurriedly bid farewell to his companions and headed back to the Ancestral Court Plaza. Today was the day of the doubles competition, and the 3-5 combo was set to compete again. He wondered what kind of opponents they would face today. He arrived at the venue early again, but it wasn't an Appos. Long before Mei Gongzi arrived. The two exchanged smiles upon meeting and headed to the waiting area together. They were the first group in the doubles competition, so they would be up right at the beginning. Competing first was good. They could return to their cultivation sooner after the match. Tang San realized that although yesterday and Appos' battle was brutal, his subsequent cultivation was more effective after enduring the ordeal and resolving the fire poison issue. Such was the benefit of stimulating potential through combat. He wondered what kind of opponents they would face today. That scorching sunflower from yesterday was strong. If I was the one to meet it one-on-one, it would have been difficult, Mei Gongzi said to Tang San. Tang San nodded, saying its extreme yang fire can even melt spatial rifts. If you happen to fight a scorching sunflower, Dawn and Appos, let it bloom fully. You must attack aggressively from the start and just suppress it until it falls. That and Appos. Probably the best way to deal with them. I didn't and Appos. T know that yesterday and almost suffered a big loss. Mei Gongzi and Appo's eyes lit up. Suppress them with direct explosive attacks? Makes sense. Tang San said, but you still have to be careful. The scorching sunflowers are obviously aware of their own weaknesses, so they and Appo's have some measures to counteract that. Thankfully, your teleportation ability allows you to get close to them quickly. If you encounter them, just go out with a swift close-range burst and take them down in one go. Got it. Mei Gongzi nodded thoughtfully. The audience had already entered the venue, and the contestants were almost all in place. Today and Appo's matches were about to begin. Tang San and Mei Gongzi and Appo's match was the first one. This meant they would be the first to compete in each round before the finals. This was something Tang San didn't and Appo's like. It drew too much attention. They both appeared human. Mei Gongzi was better off since the Peacock Demon clan looked almost perfectly human anyway, but he was different. His bloodline power had not been fully displayed, which added a layer of mystery. Being the first to compete and drawing attention made it easy for others to analyze them. However, since they were here, they had to face it. Tang San and Mei Gongzi ascended to the first stage together. Their two opponents stepped onto the platform opposite them. Demons. This was Tang San and Appo's first thought, and then his expression turned somewhat strange. The pair of opponents facing them were from races he was pretty familiar with. One was tall, over 2 meters in height, with scales on his forehead, protrusions running down his back, and a large tail extending behind him. It was unmistakably a member of the rare Chrono Croc clan. Facing an opponent from this clan, Tang San was genuinely delighted. Being able to participate in the Ancestral Court Elite competition meant it was at least at the 9th order. Devouring their bloodline would greatly benefit his Chrono Croc bloodline. Although Guli now had the essence blood Ashura had squeezed from the other horned ears, it would take time for his cultivation to improve. However, if Tang San could devour enough bloodline imprints from this Chrono Croc opponent, he could elevate his imprint to the peak of the 8th order straight away. If he broke through to the 9th order soon enough, he might even bring the Chrono Croc imprint to the 9th order. Accompanying this Chrono Croc was a winged demon, a red-crowned crane from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor and Appo's lineage. Tang San had encountered a red-crowned crane opponent in the Great Beast Fighting Arena in Kali City. As descendants of the Sword Saint lineage, the red-crowned crane's swordsmanship was exceptionally refined and challenging to handle on the battlefield. And the one he faced back then was nothing compared to the one in front of him right now. After all, this demon was representing the red-crowned crane lineage in the Ancestral Court Elite competition, and had to be a direct heir of the clan. This pair consisted of one adept at time manipulation, and the other a master swordsman. Their coordination was easily imaginable. With his own Chrono Croc bloodline, Tang San immediately envisioned their possible combat strategies. Tang San said to Mei Gongzi, "The Sword Saint Demon Emperor's sword prowess combined with time manipulation. The time attribute will affect you. I and Appo's handle the Chrono Croc. You take on the red-crowned crane. Once I deal with the Chrono Croc, I and Appo's come to help you." Tang San planned to fight separately once more. With both having teleportation abilities, they could effectively divide the battlefield. It wasn't and Appo's that he didn't and Appo's want to properly cooperate with Mei Gongzi, but it wasn't and Appo's the time for that yet. They couldn't and Appo's let stronger opponents figure out their abilities too early. At that moment, the referee officially announced the start of the match. The red-crowned crane opponent and Appo's eyes instantly lit up with a sharp gleam. At that moment he seemed to vanish, leaving only sword intent behind, as if he were the sword and the sword was him. When that sword intent appeared, it illuminated the entire arena with brilliant sword light. The incredibly sharp aura sliced through the air toward Tang San and Mei Gongzi so strong. A flash of light appeared in Tang San and Appo's eyes. This opponent had trained to the point where he and the sword were one. Reaching this level of swordsmanship was no easy feat. As the red-crowned crane soared into the air, his wings spread wide. Below him, the Chrono Croc warrior emitted a soft white light. His eyes turned a misty white, and a distorted halo radiated from his body. Even without experiencing it up close, Tang San could sense that this opponent and Appo's S control over time was far superior to Gu Li and Appo's. S. After all, this was a pure-blooded Chrono Croc warrior that was at the very top below godhood, so naturally his time manipulation was also peak level. Paired with the elite red-crowned crane, they formed a truly formidable team. Unfortunately, their opponents were Tang San and Mei Gongzi. Tang San felt it would and Appo's be a big deal if he lost in the individual matches. But he would never allow himself to lose in the doubles matches, because he couldn't and Appo's let Mei Gongzi lose. How can I let my beloved experience pain and sadness? Tang San moved. The light from his teleportation array flickered, and the next moment, he vanished into thin air. The next moment, he appeared in front of the Chrono Croc. Yes, he had directly entered the opponent and Appo's time control range. As he reappeared, his body seemed to freeze, and he plunged into a world where everything was incredibly slow. The opponents had clearly studied them. The Chrono Croc warrior had expanded his time control area right from the start. At the same time, a lightning-like sword light from above shot down, aiming straight at the top of Tang San and Appo's head. But at that moment, the Chrono Croc suddenly saw two purple beams shooting out from Tang San and Appo's eyes. In terms of bloodline power, Tang San was nowhere near the strongest of the contestants, but when it came to spiritual power, only the absolute cream of the crop among pure spirit attribute experts could compare to him. His spiritual power, purely in terms of the total amount, had long surpassed what could be evaluated as the peak of the ninth order. First attack, Purple Demon Eyes, for maximum spiritual impact. The Chrono Croc never expected this opponent, who had previously fought straightforwardly, to possess such incredible spiritual power. After all, in all of Tang San and Appo's previous battles, he had never used any abilities related to spiritual power. Additionally, the Chrono Croc and Appo's own spiritual power was very high, so he hadn't and Appo's even imagined that he might suffer in this regard. At such a close distance and with nothing to protect him, the Chrono Croc felt as if a heavy hammer had struck his sea of consciousness. His mind went blank in an instant, and the time-slowing effect ceased. The sword strike coming down from above was naturally affected by the time change as well. The two had been cooperating for a long time and had a high level of coordination. Therefore, while time slowed down the opponent, it would also speed up the Red Crown Crane and Appo's sword attacks. Naturally, as the Chrono Croc lost control, the sword and Appo's attack also seemed to slow down. A figure with peacock blue hair shimmering with silver light appeared behind the red-crowned crane. Dozens of silver beams surged upward, an explosive wave of space rifts. Although Tang San and Mei Gongzi hadn't and Appo's talked anything about coordinating their attacks, when he instantly shifted himself into range and stopped the time-slowing ability, Mei Gongzi Wuden and Appo's missed such a good opportunity. Attacking the enemy in such a way that he was forced to defend was more effective than directly helping Tang San block the sword attack. Tang San didn't and Appo's even look up at the descending sword strike. With a quick step, he was next to the Chrono Croc. His right hand rose, and before the opponent could regain clarity, Tang San's palm was already pressed against his chest. In the spectator stands, people were commenting on the fight. See, this is exactly what happened the last time. Mao Wenwu almost instantly shouted, turning to look at his father, who was behind him again. Back then, he had lost to this seemingly casual palm strike, and now it seemed that it was the crocodile demon's turn. The sword attack finally reached Tang San, yet by that point the red-crowned crane had no chance but to divert his blade and barely grazed Tang San's back. The long sword in the crane demon's hand flickered continuously, generating streaks of sword light to counter Mei Gongzi and Appo's space rifts created by the peacock plume. In an instant, the battle reached a fever pitch. At the same time, Tang San and Appo's palm was pressed against his opponent and Appo's chest. If his opponent Waren and Appo's a Chrono Croc, Tang San Wuden and Appo's have easily used his purple demon eyes, as this was one of his true trump cards. Moreover, it was an ability that couldn't and Appo's be easily explained by bloodline alone. However, he couldn't and Appo's pass up the bloodline power of this peak 9th order Chrono Croc. It was far more effective than waiting for Guli to advance. It wasn't just his own cultivation at stake. For his upcoming creation of the spacetime beacon, He needed more substantial control over time to maximize its power. So, he decided to use the purple demon eyes to ensure he could engage with this opponent. The defense of the Chrono Croc was vastly inferior to that of the Golden Mammoth, so there was no need to use the Peacock Demon imprint. He directly used the Lion Tiger Golden Force and Appo's devouring ability while injecting a stream of yin-yang energy into the opponent and Appo's body. The Chrono Croc and Appo's spiritual power was also quite formidable, so he only took a second to regain control of his body. As soon as his consciousness recovered, he tried to manipulate time once more, but it was too late. Tang San and Appo's palm had already pressed against his chest. The Chrono Croc and Appo's defense was quite good compared to ordinary demons, with his scales providing strong defense. Unfortunately, he faced the Lion Tiger Golden Force, the power of a first-tier bloodline. The devouring force immediately began to draw his bloodline power, and it was especially smooth thanks to Tang San's internal energy, which seemed to be suited to devouring other bloodlines since arriving in this plane. At the same time, the injection of yin-yang energy instantly caused the Chrono Croc and Appo's pulse to triple in speed. The sudden increase in heartbeat caused a surge in the blood supply, drastically increasing his bloodline strength, so much so in fact that it went completely out of control. The internal chaos almost made the Chrono Croc and Appo's eyes pop out of his sockets. The time fluctuations around him ceased abruptly just as they had begun to appear. Sorry. Tang San and Appo's voice sounded in his ear. Just as the Chrono Croc warrior was still trying to figure out what was happening, the terrifying devouring force suddenly peaked, causing his powerful heart to beat so hard it burst apart. Blood gushed from all orifices, and the Chrono Croc stared blankly at his opponent, feeling his boiling bloodline being frantically devoured and absorbed. The next moment he simply exploded, turning into flying bits of flesh and a cloud of blood. A brilliant white light burst forth, enveloping Tang San. He had to use this extreme method to devour everything as quickly as possible. And to prevent the Chrono Croc warrior from exposing his abilities, he chose to kill his opponent outright, thus burying all traces. Everything happened in what felt like the blink of an eye. Within an instant, Tang San had teleported to his opponent. Purple light had flashed in his eyes, and the flow of time had changed. He had lightly touched his opponent and then... There was no then. In the air, Mei Gongzi and the red-crowned crane were still clashing, but below, the Chrono Croc had been struck by Tang San and Appo's rather gentle palm and turned into a scattering blood mist. From start to finish, it took only a few seconds. Tang San and Appo's face was flushed and he swayed slightly. He took a deep breath to suppress the boiling energy within him. His innards were in turmoil, but this time it wasn't Appo's due to injury. Rather, it was due to the instant devouring of the Chrono Croc's entire bloodline power. After all, this was the second-tier bloodline power of a peak 9th order demon. Devouring it at such a speed put immense pressure on Tang San. Fortunately, he succeeded. After this, he was confident he could elevate his Chrono Croc bloodline to the 9th order. He wouldn't Appo's face any bloodline insufficiency issues before that. In the air, the red-crowned crane and Mei Gongzi paused momentarily as the Chrono Croc exploded. Mei Gongzi was a bit stunned, and the originally fierce sword intent of the red-crowned crane became somewhat chaotic. The next moment, he saw Tang San, who had steadied himself, looking up at him. The teleportation array disc in his right hand was lighting up. With a resentful shriek, the red-crowned crane flapped his wings, and the long sword quivered as it shattered the space rifts assaulting him. In an instant, he flew backward and directly exited the arena. He didn't Appo's believe he could contend with two opponents alone, especially when one of them had just slapped his companion to death. In the spectator stands, Mao Wenwu turned around and forcefully slapped the table in front of his father. The VIP seats had tables with various fruits and snacks. Did you see that? Did you see that? Father, did you see that? If I wasn't really thick-skinned, you wouldn't Appo's have a son anymore. Now you know how ruthless that guy is, right? How could I have deliberately lost the match? Look at how terrifying he is. If he gets close, it and Appo's over. You know the defense of the Chrono Croc ISN and Appo's weak, but he was freaking pulverized. Thwack! Mao Wenwu and Appo's father slapped him on the head again. How dare you slam the table in front of your old man? The father-son conversation didn't and oppose affect the mood of the surrounding VIP guests. This was undoubtedly a quick victory. As Mao Wenwu said, that human was genuinely peculiar. He couldn't and oppose be allowed to get close. Once he did, it seemed impossible to withstand him. Even a top golden mammoth had lost under such circumstances. Who could claim their defense was stronger than that of a golden mammoth? The Chronocroc clan and Oppo's leader was also in the VIP section, his face as dark as ink. The Chronocroc clan was lacking numbers as it was, and losing an elite young member this way was infuriating. However, the rules of the Ancestral Court Elite competition were clear. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't and oppose act rashly. The match ended and Mei Gongzi descended from the sky, landing beside Tang San. Mei Gongzi didn't and oppose say much about Tang San killing the Chronocroc. She didn't entertain any thoughts of sympathy or anything like that. Humans struggled to survive as slaves and vassals under the oppression of many demon and nymph clans. Countless humans had died at their hands, and she had also killed many demons herself. I didn't and oppose even get to do much, and it and oppose already over. That guy and oppose swordsmanship was quite impressive, Mei Gongzi said in a slightly complaining tone. Tang San smiled and said, I and oppose I'll let you do more next time. He was in a great mood now. The Chronocroc bloodline imprint was a timely gift, prompting him to consider whether to elevate his cultivation to the 9th order. When they returned to Kali City, they would face many difficulties. Mei Gongzi and Oppo's rise to power would not be easy. This meant that Tang San needed even more strength to protect Mei Gongzi. It seemed like it was time for him to prepare to break through to the 9th order. Then, he would quickly elevate all his bloodline imprints to the 9th order, preparing for the future ascension to godhood. Before coming to the ancestral court, Tang San thought this process would take at least a few years. However, this time frame had been significantly shortened after arriving at the ancestral court and gaining numerous resources and opportunities. This was a situation he was happy to see. The two stepped off the stage hand in hand. Mei Gongzi asked Big Brother Azura, are you heading back directly? Tang San nodded and said, I must return and continue my cultivation. What about you? I and Oppos, I'll go back too. The mysterious circles of heaven are profound and expansive. I need to ponder them further. Looking at her beautiful face, Tang San truly wanted to spend more time with her, but for the sake of the future, he could only suppress his impulse and nod, saying, all right. See you tomorrow. He still needed to go to the Etherhorn Merchant Association to get tickets for his companions to watch the match. Then there was the cultivation at the Earthshade Sacred Mountain and the Sunborn Sacred Mountain, partially devouring the newly absorbed 9th Order Chronocroc imprint to elevate his own Chronocroc imprint to the peak of the 8th Order. There was a lot to do and all of it required time. Here, the speed of his cultivation was far greater than back in Kali City. Tang San had already decided to prioritize refining the long-distance teleportation ability when he returned and crafted the space-time beacon. This would facilitate future travel between Kali City and the Ancestral Court, minimizing the travel time as much as possible. Brother Su, are you there? Tang San activated the communicator Su Xiren had given him and initiated contact. Almost immediately, Su Xiren and Oppo's voice came through the communicator. Of course I and Oppo's am here. Brother Azura, you and Oppo's. Amazing. I never expected this. How did you end up participating in the team battle with the little princess? Tang San replied, it and Oppo's a long story. The city lord brought her to sign up the other day, and I happened to be there registering too. We met there and we decided to fight as a team. Don and Oppo's. Worry my companions aren't participating, it and Oppo's. Just me. I and Oppo's. I'll also be careful to keep a low profile. No problem, no problem. With the city lord and Oppo's endorsement, it and Oppo's. Fine even if you and Oppo's. High profile. You can just say you and Oppo's. A vassal of the Peacock Demon clan. Brother Azura, do you have time? Can we meet? I and Oppo's. Am watching the match now, you probably Haven and Oppo's. Left yet. Su Xiren was surprisingly polite, but at the same time he sounded a bit anxious. Tang San smiled. guessing why the other horned deer was eager to meet him. I just came out. I and Appos. LL wait for you at the exit. It wasn't an Appos. T long before Suziran, dressed simply, walked out from the plaza area. Seeing Tang San, he quickly approached with a look of friendliness. Brother Azura, you and Appos. Amazing. You and Appos. Winning match after match in both the individual and the doubles competitions. Truly powerful. As he spoke, he gave Tang San a thumbs up. Tang San smiled and said, I and Appos. am just doing my best. It and Appos. Also to secure a promising future. Suziran laughed. Then you will surely have a bright future. Come, let and Appos. Go to our place to talk. It and Appos quieter there. All right, Tang San agreed. A luxurious carriage from the Etherhorn Merchant Association quickly arrived, and Tang San boarded the carriage with Suziran. Suziran and Appos' expression was noticeably different from before. Previously, he valued Azura mainly for his connection with the master blacksmith, seeing him as a link and intermediary. However, after witnessing Azura's performance in the Ancestral Court Elite competition, he realized he had made a significant mistake. The fact that Azura and Appos' bloodline power could reach beyond the second tier was already astonishing. In Kali City, such a bloodline could be considered top tier. Moreover, he continuously defeated formidable opponents in the Ancestral Court Elite competition. Suziran watched the match against the Golden Mammoth and found his victory somewhat puzzling. But after witnessing Azura and Appos' fierce battle against the powerful Scorching Sunflower, he truly understood that Azura was genuinely skilled and extraordinarily powerful. Suziran even briefly wondered if this guy was actually human. What surprised Suziran even more was that Azura teamed up with Mei Gongzi to participate in the doubles competition. As the most loyal supporter of the Peacock Demon clan, Suziran naturally knew that the Peacock Great Demon King intended for Mei Gongzi to inherit his throne and the position of City Lord. Although they did not understand why the Peacock Great Demon King would choose someone with mixed blood, this was the will of the Peacock Great Demon King, and as loyal supporters they had no choice but to comply. When Suziran saw that Azura and Mei Gongzi had formed a pair, he was truly shocked. Mei Gongzi being strong was nothing surprising, but their cooperation clearly indicated a deep connection. What is going on? Could it be that Azura himself has some relationship with the City Lord? Thus, Suziran had initially intended to seek out Azura, but unexpectedly, the latter had come to him first. Naturally, Suziran wanted to find out the specifics in order to understand better how to deal with him in the future. Brother Azura, what brings you to me? Suziran asked. I have a small favor to ask of you, Brother Su. You know my companions. They hope to come and watch this grand event of the Ancestral Court Elite competition. Could you help us get a few tickets for decent seats? Hearing this, Suziran and Appos' face showed a look of realization, and he quickly smiled. A small matter. There are very few good seats left, but worry not. Our merchant association has reserved some seats. We'll just give you some. How many tickets do you need? Tang San said just 5. On his part, there were his 3 companions and his master. Sadly, Dubai had to sit this one out. Conversely, he definitely had to arrange a seat for Little Cat. If she was in the stands watching the match, Big Cat and Appos' combat power would probably increase by a level. Thus, he required 5 seats in total. Alright, no problem. I and Appos' arrange it as soon as I get back. They can watch the fights together tomorrow. Hearing Suziran agree so readily, Tang San smiled and said, Thank you very much, Brother Su. Suziran replied, No need to be polite. I should be thanking you. You have no idea how many orders we and Appos' received since you used the teleportation array disc to defeat powerful opponents in the arena one after another. Our merchant association has been flooded with orders. Actually, I was going to contact you about this. The array discs you brought last time are almost sold out. We had no choice but to raise the prices again. Yet the demand still exceeds supply. Brother Azura, if it and Appos' not too much, please ask the array master to make more array discs for us, especially the teleportation ones. They and Appos' incredibly popular right now, and the Ancestral Court is full of wealthy people. Rest assured, even if we end up increasing the price, Master Lu's percentage will stay the same. No one ever complained about having too much money. Most of Tang San and Appo's profits from selling bloodline array discs had already been spent. He said, I and Appo's I'll find Master Lu later. Speaking of that, his need for materials has been quite high lately. Making the array discs requires materials, of course. We will take whatever you can provide. That and Appo's no problem, Suzerain said, patting his chest with a smile. Give me a list later and I and Appo's I'll prepare everything as soon as possible. I and Appo's I'll give them to you after your match tomorrow. Azura had used a teleportation array disc to consecutively defeat opponents in the competition, relying on the array disc and Appo's powerful teleportation ability. Naturally, this caught the attention of many, and recently sales had soared. The Etherhorn Merchant Association was at the height of its fame, far surpassing its competitors. Suzerain received significant praise, and the Etherhorn Merchant Association made huge profits, with sales of other products increasing as well. It seemed they were on the path to becoming the continent and Appo's top merchant association. With the potential profits in Azura and Appo's demonstrated personal strength, how could Suzerain and Appo's attitude towards him not change? Even if the Etherhorn Deer King were here, he would have to be respectful toward Azura. Tang San said that shouldn't and Appo's be a problem, but it will take some time. Master Lu is still researching the bloodline array discs, and I can't and Appo's bother him too much. Alright. Understood. Sometimes fewer items can sell at a better price. We will organize it all to maximize profits and ensure the master gains good returns. ISN and Appo's this just scarcity marketing? Tang San chuckled to himself. Arriving at the Etherhorn Merchant Association by carriage, Suzerain led Azura to a quiet room. He first had Azura write down the materials needed, then immediately sent his subordinates to prepare them. Naturally, Tang San couldn't and Appo's let the Etherhorn Merchant Association provide all the materials needed to make the array discs. He omitted some essential but inexpensive materials he would purchase himself or have his master buy. He couldn't and Appo's let them know how low the actual cost of the array discs was. After making the arrangements, Suzerain asked him, Brother Azura, do you have any specific goals for this competition? Tang San shook his head. Just doing my best. Do you have any suggestions, Brother Su? Suzerain pondered momentarily and said, I wouldn't and Appo's call it a suggestion, but do you know, Brother Azura, if you can make it out of the group stage and into the finals, there will be significant benefits? Tang San feigned a look of surprise. Please enlighten me, Brother Su. Suzerain said, the Ancestral Court Elite Competition is a crucial event for each major family to select elite talents. The competition starts with internal trials within each major clan. Whoever stands out in such a competition is undoubtedly proving themselves to their family, thereby gaining more resource allocation in the future. Those who can participate are from powerful clans, and most are at the 9th order. The leap from the 9th order to the 10th is challenging, and can be life-threatening if not done correctly. Therefore, achieving this level requires a huge amount of resources. Each race has limited resources, so resource allocation becomes crucial. The Ancestral Court Elite Competition, in a sense, is the final decision on resource allocation. The more victories one achieves in the tournament, the more support they will receive from their clan. Tang San nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. Suzerain continued, once you enter the top 16, it's not just about gaining the attention of major families, but also catching the eyes of emperors. If you happen to be from an emperor's clan, you might even get personal guidance from them and maybe even become a direct heir, and consequently a major figure within your clan. And even if you aren't, you can still gain the favor of an emperor. You can then choose to join the emperor and Appo's clan and become an important guest official. They will also provide a large amount of resources for improvement. Therefore, the further you go in the Ancestral Court Elite Competition, the fiercer the competition. Those who have reached the top 3 have almost always become the leaders of their respective clans and even races. So, the Ancestral Court Elite Competition is even more important than you imagine. Tang San said, I understand a bit now. So what do you mean for me to do now, Brother Su? Suzerain said, something else entirely compared to when you competed in the Great Beast Fighting Arena. At that time, the Ancestral Court targeted you because of your impact on the human race. Although humans are generally weak, they are numerous. To avoid unnecessary trouble, they aim to suppress you. But now you are competing as an individual. Not only do you have noble status, but your bloodline is second tier or higher. You're in a different position altogether. If you can gain the recognition of an emperor in the future, it would be an incredible achievement and could even benefit Kali City. With that, Tang San finally understood where his interlocutor was getting. Su Xiren hoped that he could achieve good results in the competition, gain recognition from the emperors, and thereby receive the emperors and Appos support for the Peacock Demon clan in Kali City. Tang San calmly said, "Gaining the recognition of an emperor is not an easy task. Moreover, I am just a human. Even if I achieve some success in the competition, I wouldn't and Appos be that highly regarded by the emperors, right?" Su Xiren said, "See, that's not exactly the case. You are no longer an ordinary human. You have already won 4 matches in the elite competition, defeating various opponents, including those with first-tier bloodlines. Yesterday, you defeated a member of the Scorching Sunflower clan, who are among the strongest of the strong. If you continue, you can advance from the group stage. You may not know this, but statistically speaking, participants who advance from the group stage are likely to become a great demon king in the future. As a human, you may not be noticed, but what if you are a great demon king? Well, maybe I should call that a great human king. Regardless, there has never been such a person in the entire human history. If you can reach that level, how could you not be valued by the emperors? Moreover, you represent the human race in a sense. Although humans are weak, they sure have the numbers. Supporting you to become the ruler of the race is not impossible." Tang San looked at him, thinking in amazement, "You have quite a plan. Your goal is simply to hope that I can gain the support of the emperors, and thus stabilize the Peacock Demon clan and Appos' ruling position." Not that he complained in any way, after all, this was also one of his own goals. To help Mei Gongzi in the future, his strength was still insufficient, and there was certainly strength in numbers. "I will do my best," he replied. Su Xiren said, "Brother Azura, since you are competing together with the little princess, it means that the city lord already recognizes you. You must do your best. Ideally, you should make it out of the group stage. 2 or 3 more victories will get you into the top 16. Actually, you might only need 2 matches if you and Appos re-lucky and get a bye. This year and Appos' newly introduced doubles competition is said to be particularly valued by the ancestral court, so you and the little princess must work even harder. If necessary, I suggest you give up the individual competition and focus on the doubles, assisting the little princess. That would be even more significant for Kali City. So the goal is just to help Mei Gongzi advance. Did you really need to tell me all that stuff about a great king and whatnot? Don and Appos worry, Brother Su. I will do my best to assist her. She is very strong and I believe she can go far." Su Xiren sighed softly and said, "After watching the matches these past few days, I understand why the city lord wants the little princess to inherit the throne. She is truly exceptional. Her siblings Can and Appos compare to her. She is not even 18 yet and already has such strength. In the future, she might be able to restore the glory of the Peacock Demon clan. If she becomes an emperor, you will be the one assisting an emperor." Tang San smiled slightly and said, "That would be my honor." Su Xiren subtly probed further into his interlocutor and Appos' strength, especially his bloodline, but Tang San skillfully evaded these questions. By the time he was ready to leave, the items Su Xiren had ordered to be prepared were ready. He didn't and Appos' have to wait until the next day. They were given to him before he left, along with the entrance tickets for his companions, all neatly arranged. "Brother Azura, please keep up the good work. When you return victorious, our association will certainly present a gift to congratulate you," Su Xiren said sincerely. "Thank you, Brother Su. I will do my best." Putting away the items Su Xiren gave him, Tang San did not return to his residence but went directly to the Sunborn Sacred Mountain to continue his cultivation. After fusing with the corpse devourer nymph and Appos' bloodline, he still had a lot of room to absorb yin and yang energies. Today, when facing the strong opponent from the Chrono Croc clan, Tang San had once more relied on a fusion of multiple bloodlines. Under the spiritual shock delivered by the purple demon eyes, the yin-yang energy once again played a decisive role. Once it entered the enemy's circulation, The extreme yin power in particular almost instantly neutralized the opponent and oppose's combat strength. Even a golden mammoth's physique was unable to withstand it, so what more could be said about other races? The enhancement of yin-yang energy also significantly contributed to Tang San and oppose's overall improvement. According to Tang San and oppose's estimates, the sheer power of his yin-yang energy was roughly equivalent to the Seventh Order. This meant it was comparable to the Seventh Order after the fusion of energy from the Sunborn Sacred Mountain and the Earthshade Mountain. On the other hand, in terms of quality, it could no longer be classified as even a first-tier bloodline. Because the Blue-Silver Emperor imprint was positioned further back, it was eager to move forward, as if to elevate its own status now that its quality had improved so tremendously. Thankfully, under Tang San and oppose's continuous suppression, it hadn't and oppose's conflicted with the other imprints. In any case, the clash was inevitable, and Tang San only hoped to delay it for a while to avoid affecting his participation in the competition. In the future, if the power of the yin-yang energy could be raised to the Ninth Order, it might become uncontrollable. But that would take time. For now, the enhancement of the Blue-Silver Emperor brought by the Corpse Devourer Nymph bloodline would allow the yin-yang energy to reach the Eighth Order. As for the speed, Tang San's daily absorption of yin and yang energies resulted in a ridiculous cultivation rate. And as long as Tang San could withstand it, the rate wouldn't and oppose's drop. The biggest problem the Blue-Silver Emperor imprint faced right now was its instability. The Blue-Silver Emperor acted as a medium to merge and guide the two energies, allowing them to merge into the yin-yang energy vortex. But this vortex had no core, unlike Tang San and oppose's internal energy. Thanks to the mysterious heaven technique, he had been able to develop a soul core, ensuring that no matter how his internal energy increased or decreased, there would be no disorder. The soul core was the absolute central hub for his internal energy. Unfortunately, the Blue-Silver Emperor imprint could not fulfill that role. Its level was simply insufficient. Even after continuously devouring several powerful bloodlines, it only reached the strength of a second-tier bloodline. As for the extremely yin and extremely yang energies, if fully integrated as bloodline imprints, each one would have the strength of a first-tier bloodline all by itself, and their fusion increased this exponentially. The Blue-Silver Emperor becoming their core was just impossible. In this regard, Tang San had a plan in mind. To truly stabilize the yin-yang energy, his Blue-Silver Emperor had to simultaneously absorb bloodline power from both the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's lineage and the Earthshade Nymph Emperor's lineage. It would undergo a stronger evolution by merging these extremely yin and yang bloodline imprints into the Blue-Silver Emperor. At that time, the yin-yang energy would truly integrate and evolve, giving birth to a fully cohesive imprint. But this fusion would inevitably be challenging. By then, the conflict of the yin-yang energy would not just be an energy conflict but also a bloodline conflict. Tang San was genuinely afraid that he wouldn't and oppose's be able to withstand it, so he was worried. Achieving this was genuinely challenging. He could only take it one step at a time, steadily pushing the yin-yang energy to the Ninth Order first. Later, when his cultivation was more stable, he could consider the ultimate evolution of the yin-yang energy. If this evolution were completed, the resulting imprint would be a bloodline transcending the first tier, possibly the key to his future ascension to godhood. As the saying goes, plans can and oppose's keep up with changes. After arriving at the ancestral court, the world truly opened up for Tang San. It made him replan his future cultivation and advancement and taught him how to face this world. The rest of the day until nightfall was spent shuttling between the two sacred mountains.